50 years doesn't seem like a very long time in the vast scheme of things, but it's enough time for things to have drastically changed. The differences between the late 1960s and today go beyond the obvious, such as the astonishing technological advances that have been made since then. Beauty standards were also shockingly different, reflecting the turbulence of the era. Here are some of the most surprising things that men found attractive 50 years ago. Racism was rampant in the 1960s, although the civil rights movement helped to create significant change by the end of the decade. Anti-miscegenation laws, which had prevented people in several states from marrying those of another race, were struck down in 1967. In spite of the reforms made in the 1960s, racial prejudice was still prevalent. By the 1960s, the Miss America pageant still didn't allow African American contestants. In 1968, a Miss Black America pageant was held on the same day as the Miss America pageant in response to the organization's discrimination. It would be another 2 years before an African American woman, Cheryl Brown, won a state title in the Miss America pageant competition. Even within the African American community, a preference for lighter skin was apparent, although this slowly began to change in the 1960s with people embracing their skin color. Things are a little better today, but there is still discrimination against those with darker skin. A 2016 Time article said even in modern times dark skin is demonized and light skin wins the prize because of the deeply entrenched racism of the United States. For a time, it looked like fuller figures would be, if not the dominant ideal of beauty, at least an accepted standard. In the 1950s and early 1960s, voluptuous women like Marilyn Monroe were cultural icons. Still, there was also a significant move toward slimness, wrote Sarah Grogan in Body Image, Understanding Body Dissatisfaction in Men, Women and Children. As the decade progressed, the slim trend became more pronounced, becoming particularly acute. When the fashion model Twiggy became the role model for a generation of young women. As time went on, models became thinner and thinner, wrote Grogan. As models became thinner, curves became less desirable. It was in the late 1960s when the obsession with eliminating cellulite began. Linda Przybylszewski wrote in The Lost Art of Dress, "The women who once made America stylish that at this time curvaceous women were passed over in favor of underweight teenagers." The desire to be thin led to a preoccupation with weight, especially among younger girls. Before the 1920s, teenagers worried about becoming better people, wrote Przybylszewski. By the 1960s, however, weight loss became the primary obsession. The desire for flatter chests correlated with an obsession for smaller butts. Przybylszewski wrote that the fear of cellulite caused women to do anything they could to eliminate what they identified as water, wastes, and fat trapped inside women's hips and thighs. One woman who was written about in Vogue magazine in the late 1960s managed to reduce her 39-inch hips down to 34 inches through exercise, standing correctly, and using a special rolling pin. Such regimens were typical in the late 1960s. If you didn't want to rub your butt yourself, wrote Przybylszewski, you hired a masseuse to do it for you. The desire for more boyish figures was not entirely to please men or to conform to fashion. Battleground, the media, edited by Robin Anderson and Jonathan Allen Gray, noted that the changing shape of women's bodies has in many ways served to reflect larger cultural values. Throughout history, a thin, straight figure was prized at times when women were striving to demonstrate their equality. In fashion, a history from the 18th to the 20th century, Akiko Fakai wrote that the young found that displaying their physique was the most effective means of setting themselves apart from the older generation. The miniskirt came into vogue as bare legs. Developed through various conceptual stages in the 1960s. As hemlines rose, more attention was paid to the length and shape of a woman's legs. In women of the 1960s, more than miniskirts, pills and pop music, author Sheila Hardy wrote that many women felt they did not have the legs for a miniskirt. The emphasis 1960s fashion placed on women's legs also influenced shoe styles. Tall, pointed boots came into fashion, offsetting the short skirts of the era. Coinciding with the preference for more boyish figures was the rise of unisex clothing and androgynous styles. This echoed a similar trend from the 1920s, when androgyny began to be associated with the search for greater independence for women, wrote Rebecca Arnold in Fashion, Desire and Anxiety, Image and Morality in the 20th Century. Arnold wrote that the rise of androgyny in the 1960s helped to denote freedoms gained and the rejection of a preceding claustrophobic femininity. Perhaps even more interesting is that this inclination towards androgyny was also adopted by men. PBS noted that for a brief time, mostly in 1968, unisex was everywhere, and with it came a fair amount of confusion in the media. The piece went on to quote Everett Matlin, who, in 1968 wrote in the Chicago Tribune that the whole male-female relationship is confused. Traditional gender roles were beginning to evolve at this time, which Matlin believed could lead to a healthier climate. The suppression of women's curves led to the popularity of What Imagination, the American counterculture of the 1960s and 70s, edited by Peter Bronstein and Michael William Doyle, called a prepubescent look. Lithe, young-looking Lolita types like Twiggy dominated the fashion world. This look of exaggerated youthfulness expressed the associated sensibility that maturity, in dress or behavior, was a dirty word, a sign of premature death, and therefore something to be warded off as long as possible. According to the Mankanyan, the 1960s have today become a symbol for the social conflict between the old and the new. The Lolita look embodied the spirit of the era, representing youth and vigor. The rebellion against traditional gender norms was also evidenced in women's undergarments. By the late 1960s, many women were going braless as a political protest move symbolizing freedom and rejection of traditional views of femininity, wrote the Lala. Fashion designer Yves Saint Laurent contributed to making going braless not just a form of protest, but also a fashion trend. His sheer designs were always modeled by women who wore no undergarments beneath them. This, too, was a political statement. Dazed wrote that the decision was less about pleasing the onlooker, and more about asserting equality between the sexes. The time period was noted for a departure from formality and tradition. In Fresh Lipstick, Redressing Fashion and Feminism, Linda M. Scott wrote that there was a preference for long, straight hair in the late 1960s. Many men also wore their hair long at this time. The changing hairstyles weren't just about following fashion. For many, they were also acts of rebellion against the highly constructed female hairdos and very short male haircuts of the previous generation. The 1960s might have been a time of change, but ads from the era show that women were still expected to be homemakers and sex objects. In spite of the great strides made towards gender and racial equality, women still did not have the same rights as men. Even by the end of the decade, it was legal for a bank to deny an unmarried woman a credit card. Married women were often required to have their husbands co-sign. Some states still banned women from serving on juries, and the first Ivy League schools didn't start accepting women until 1969, with some holding out well into the 1970s. In The Feminine Mystique, published in 1963, Betty Friedan summed up the frustration of the generation, writing, "A woman today has been made to feel freakish and alone and guilty if, simply, she wants to be more than her husband's wife." A lot of people envision the 1960s as a decade-long booze fest where day drinking, especially at work, was the norm. While this is partially true, it was far more acceptable for men to indulge in multiple alcoholic beverages each day than women. More and more women were moving away from conventional gender stereotypes, but women who drank frequently were seen as decidedly unfeminine. A glass of wine with dinner or a cocktail on the weekend was acceptable, but getting drunk was not. Warning women not to drink too much was not just a societal pressure, but one that was backed up by public service announcements of the day as well as the mainstream media. "People think of the woman drunk as an old hag," warned the Saturday Evening Post in 1962. Among men, heavy drinking is often taken as a sign of virility, and the phrase, "drunk as a lord," is a tribute. No one ever said approvingly, "she was drunk as a lady." That sentiment still remained true by the end of the decade. Drinking in excess may have been taboo for women looking to attract a man, but smoking was considered attractive. While a link between smoking and lung cancer had been established years before, the practice was still widespread. In 1964, the Surgeon General warned that cigarette smoking is a health hazard of sufficient importance in the United States to warrant appropriate remedial action. In spite of such warnings, smoking was largely considered to be glamorous and sophisticated. The tobacco industry targeted women in the 1960s, taking advantage of the growing feminist movement by portraying smoking as the pinnacle of gender equality. Virginia Slims were launched as a women's cigarette in 1968, with the slogan "You've come a long way, baby." Other cigarette ads from the late 1960s show young, attractive women partaking in what is shown as an elegant pastime, conveying the message that women who smoked were refined and sexy. By the late 1960s, more women were working than ever. While they were making great economic strides, working women faced a certain stigma. It was far more acceptable for single women to work than married women, as a woman's primary duty was still expected to be to her family. In 1967, just 44% of married American couples lived in dual-income households, compared to more than half of married couples today. Working wives and mothers were thought to destabilize home life and their families. History professor Stephanie Kuntz told the Harvard Business Review that middle-class women were the most stigmatized, and that if they did choose to enter the workforce they were expected to wait until their children had grown. And these women, it is hard for modern people to understand just how insecure, how depressed, how low the self-esteem was of these stay-at-home moms in those days, she said. The rise of the miniskirt meant that women felt the pressure to put their best leg forward. By the mid-1960s, a new trend was emerging: leg makeup. Makeup had been used on legs before, perhaps most notably during World War II when a shortage of stockings propelled women to draw on stocking seams with eyeliner to make it look like their legs weren't bare. The leg makeup of the 1960s, however, was primarily used to cover up flaws that were now exposed thanks to the shorter hemlines of the era. Women would carefully apply makeup to their legs to cover up blemishes before putting on hosiery. Bruises, scars, and other imperfections were covered up with cosmetics, and then further concealed with stockings. The use of leg makeup shows just how conflicted women in this era were. The women's liberation movement was empowering females, and women were beginning to embrace their bodies, but many of them still felt the pressure to conform to society's beauty standards. Athletic women were in at the end of the 1960s, but not for the reason that you might think. Athletics were viewed as a way for women to maintain attractive figures. Women became more active in sports in the 1960s, especially in high schools and colleges, although women's sports were not considered to be on par with men's sports. A woman with an athletic physique was considered attractive, but female athletes had a long way to go to be accepted in society. It wasn't until 1972 that the U.S. Congress passed Title IX, which helped secure funding for women's sports. The first female athlete to appear on the cover of Sports Illustrated, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, didn't do so until 1987. While female athletes today are considered strong and capable role models, the female athletes of the 1960s were largely viewed as hobbyists whose pastimes were only indulged in order to help them remain slim. 50 years doesn't seem like a very long time in the vast scheme of things, but it's enough time for things to have drastically changed. The differences between the late 1960s and today go beyond the obvious, such as the astonishing technological advances that have been made since then. Beauty standards were also shockingly different, reflecting the turbulence of the era. Here are some of the most surprising things that men found attractive 50 years ago. Racism was rampant in the 1960s, although the civil rights movement helped to create significant change by the end of the decade. Anti-miscegenation laws, which had prevented people in several states from marrying those of another race, were struck down in 1967. In spite of the reforms made in the 1960s, racial prejudice was still prevalent. By the 1960s, the Miss America pageant still didn't allow African American contestants. In 1968, a Miss Black America pageant was held on the same day as the Miss America pageant in response to the organization's discrimination. It would be another 2 years before an African American woman, Cheryl Brown, won a state title in the Miss America pageant competition. Even within the African American community, a preference for lighter skin was apparent, although this slowly began to change in the 1960s with people embracing their skin color. Things are a little better today, but there is still discrimination against those with darker skin. A 2016 Time article said even in modern times dark skin is demonized and light skin wins the prize because of the deeply entrenched racism of the United States. For a time, it looked like fuller figures would be, if not the dominant ideal of beauty, at least an accepted standard. In the 1950s and early 1960s, voluptuous women like Marilyn Monroe were cultural icons. Still, there was also a significant move toward slimness, wrote Sarah Grogan in Body Image, Understanding Body Dissatisfaction in Men, Women and Children. As the decade progressed, the slim trend became more pronounced, becoming particularly acute. When the fashion model Twiggy became the role model for a generation of young women. As time went on, models became thinner and thinner, wrote Grogan. As models became thinner, curves became less desirable. It was in the late 1960s when the obsession with eliminating cellulite began. Linda Przybylszewski wrote in The Lost Art of Dress, "The women who once made America stylish that at this time curvaceous women were passed over in favor of underweight teenagers." The desire to be thin led to a preoccupation with weight, especially among younger girls. Before the 1920s, teenagers worried about becoming better people, wrote Przybylszewski. By the 1960s, however, weight loss became the primary obsession. The desire for flatter chests correlated with an obsession for smaller butts. Przybylszewski wrote that the fear of cellulite caused women to do anything they could to eliminate what they identified as water waists. and fat trapped inside women's hips and thighs. One woman who was written about in Vogue magazine in the late 1960s managed to reduce her 39-inch hips down to 34 inches through exercise, standing correctly, and using a special rolling pin. Such regimens were typical in the late 1960s. If you didn't want to rub your butt yourself, wrote Przybishevsky, you hired a masseuse to do it for you. The desire for more boyish figures was not entirely to please men or to conform to fashion. Battleground, the media, edited by Robin Anderson and Jonathan Allen Gray, noted that the changing shape of women's bodies has in many ways served to reflect larger cultural values. Throughout history, a thin, straight figure was prized at times when women were striving to demonstrate their equality. In fashion, a history from the 18th to the 20th century, Akiko Fakai wrote that the young found that displaying their physique was the most effective means of setting themselves apart from the older generation. The miniskirt came into vogue as bare legs. Developed through various conceptual stages in the 1960s. As hemlines rose, more attention was paid to the length and shape of a woman's legs. In women of the 1960s, more than miniskirts, pills and pop music, author Sheila Hardy wrote that many women felt they did not have the legs for a miniskirt. The emphasis 1960s fashion placed on women's legs also influenced shoe styles. Tall, pointed boots came into fashion, offsetting the short skirts of the era. Coinciding with the preference for more boyish figures was the rise of unisex clothing and androgynous styles. This echoed a similar trend from the 1920s, when androgyny began to be associated with the search for greater independence for women, wrote Rebecca Arnold in Fashion, Desire and Anxiety, Image and Morality in the 20th Century. Arnold wrote that the rise of androgyny in the 1960s helped to denote freedoms gained and the rejection of a preceding claustrophobic femininity. Perhaps even more interesting is that this inclination towards androgyny was also adopted by men. PBS noted that for a brief time, mostly in 1968, unisex was everywhere, and with it came a fair amount of confusion in the media. The piece went on to quote Everett Matlin, who, in 1968 wrote in the Chicago Tribune that the whole male-female relationship is confused. Traditional gender roles were beginning to evolve at this time, which Matlin believed could lead to a healthier climate. The suppression of women's curves led to the popularity of what Imagination, the American counterculture of the 1960s and 70s, edited by Peter Bronstein and Michael William Doyle, called a prepubescent look. Lithe, young-looking Lolita types like Twiggy dominated the fashion world. This look of exaggerated youthfulness expressed the associated sensibility that maturity, in dress or behavior, was a dirty word, a sign of premature death, and therefore something to be warded off as long as possible. According to the Mancunian, the 1960s have today become a symbol for the social conflict between the old and the new. The Lolita look embodied the spirit of the era, representing youth and vigor. The rebellion against traditional gender norms was also evidenced in women's undergarments. By the late 1960s, many women were going braless as a political protest move symbolizing freedom and rejection of traditional views of femininity, wrote the Lala. Fashion designer Yves Saint Laurent contributed to making going braless not just a form of protest, but also a fashion trend. His sheer designs were always modeled by women who wore no undergarments beneath them. This, too, was a political statement. Dazed wrote that the decision was less about pleasing the onlooker, and more about asserting equality between the sexes. The time period was noted for a departure from formality and tradition. In Fresh Lipstick, Redressing Fashion and Feminism, Linda M. Scott wrote that there was a preference for long, straight hair in the late 1960s. Many men also wore their hair long at this time. The changing hairstyles weren't just about following fashion. For many, they were also acts of rebellion against the highly constructed female hairdos and very short male haircuts of the previous generation. The 1960s might have been a time of change, but ads from the era show that women were still expected to be homemakers and sex objects. In spite of the great strides made towards gender and racial equality, women still did not have the same rights as men. Even by the end of the decade, it was legal for a bank to deny an unmarried woman a credit card. Married women were often required to have their husbands co-sign. Some states still banned women from serving on juries, and the first Ivy League schools didn't start accepting women until 1969, with some holding out well into the 1970s. In The Feminine Mystique, published in 1963, Betty Friedan summed up the frustration of the generation, writing, "A woman today has been made to feel freakish and alone and guilty if, simply, she wants to be more than her husband's wife." A lot of people envision the 1960s as a decade-long booze fest where day drinking, especially at work, was the norm. While this is partially true, it was far more acceptable for men to indulge in multiple alcoholic beverages each day than women. More and more women were moving away from conventional gender stereotypes, but women who drank frequently were seen as decidedly unfeminine. A glass of wine with dinner or a cocktail on the weekend was acceptable, but getting drunk was not. Warning women not to drink too much was not just a societal pressure, but one that was backed up by public service announcements of the day as well as the mainstream media. People think of the woman drunk as an old hag, warned the Saturday Evening Post in 1962. Among men, heavy drinking is often taken as a sign of virility, and the phrase, "drunk as a lord," is a tribute. No one ever said approvingly, "she was drunk as a lady." That sentiment still remained true by the end of the decade. Drinking in excess may have been taboo for women looking to attract a man, but smoking was considered attractive. While a link between smoking and lung cancer had been established years before, the practice was still widespread. In 1964, the Surgeon General warned that cigarette smoking is a health hazard of sufficient importance in the United States to warrant appropriate remedial action. In spite of such warnings, smoking was largely considered to be glamorous and sophisticated. The tobacco industry targeted women in the 1960s, taking advantage of the growing feminist movement by portraying smoking as the pinnacle of gender equality. Virginia Slims were launched as a women's cigarette in 1968, with the slogan "You've come a long way, baby." Other cigarette ads from the late 1960s show young, attractive women partaking in what is shown as an elegant pastime, conveying the message that women who smoked were refined and sexy. By the late 1960s, more women were working than ever. While they were making great economic strides, working women faced a certain stigma. It was far more acceptable for single women to work than married women, as a woman's primary duty was still expected to be to her family. In 1967, just 44% of married American couples lived in dual-income households, compared to more than half of married couples today. Working wives and mothers were thought to destabilize home life and their families. History professor Stephanie Kuntz told the Harvard Business Review that middle-class women were the most stigmatized, and that if they did choose to enter the workforce they were expected to wait until their children had grown. And these women, it is hard for modern people to understand just how insecure, how depressed, how low the self-esteem was of these stay-at-home moms in those days, she said. The rise of the miniskirt meant that women felt the pressure to put their best leg forward, By the mid-1960s, a new trend was emerging: leg makeup. Makeup had been used on legs before, perhaps most notably during World War II when they're fiery and dangerous, or they're clownish and weak. They're total geeks in public, but they're wild in the bedroom. They don't have souls, so they'll steal yours. The list of myths and stereotypes about redheads go on, showing just how stigmatized people with this unique phenotype really are. But all of the joking about the red-headed stepchild aside, it turns out that our ginger sisters and brothers really do have a special set of attributes that their blonde and brunette counterparts don't. While some of them are a bit predictable, other aspects really are quite fascinating, even advantageous at times. So what's so special about our red-headed friends? What is it that makes their hair so crimson and their skin so pale? What mysteries are contained within their fair, carrot-topped bodies? Let's go ahead and set the record straight. So here's the go-to list for the truth about redheads. Being redheaded isn't the same as being a blonde or a brunette, according to science. That's because our ginger bays are different on a genetic level, which may be why it's so hard to fake, at least convincingly. In fact, gingers specifically have a mutation on their MYC1R gene, according to the National Institutes of Health. So now you can tell all of your red-headed friends that they're legit mutants. So what does that mutation do, and how did it give Reba McEntire and Jessica Chastain those swoon-worthy locks? In a nutshell, it increases the amount of the red pigment, pheomelanin, that gingers have, and decreases the amount of the darker pigment, eumelanin, they produce. That's what causes redheads to have fairer skin, freckles, pale-colored eyes and, of course, red hair. That's also why redheads have to be careful in the sun, as they're more sensitive to sunlight due to the lack of eumelanin. Believe it or not, redheads account for only 2% of the population worldwide, according to Red, A Natural History of the Redhead by Jackie Calise Harvey. It's more common in places like Northern and Western Europe, where redheads in turn make up higher percentages of the population. So for the most part, gingers are a rare breed, far outnumbered by the yellow and brown-haired members of our species. The main reason gingers are so rare is because being redheaded is a recessive trait. That means that in order to be born with those famous crimson locks, both parents have to be a carrier of the gene. They don't have to be redheads themselves, though, which is why gingers can sometimes be an unexpected surprise. If you're a redhead with blue eyes, you're even more rare. The reason? Having blue eyes is also a recessive gene, according to Science Daily. Talk about a unicorn. Although redheads are only a small fraction of the world's population, they're overrepresented in television commercials, according to a study conducted by social and traditional media analysis firm Upstream Analysis. Company president Janet Harris discussed the results in an article she penned for the Huffington Post. Specifically, during peak television viewing hours, 30% of commercials will include at least one person with red hair. More often than not, it's red-headed ladies who are spotted. They're twice as likely to be in a commercial than their male counterparts. And when you remove ads with no people in them from the equation, the percentage inches up to 33%. How's that for evidence that everyone loves a ginger? Why are redheads in so many commercials? Some speculate that they're super photogenic, which could be a factor. Others point to the positive effects that seeing the color red has on our bodies. More research is needed to know for sure, so for now we'll just expect to see gingers on TV on the reg. When you close your eyes and picture what a redhead looks like, do you picture someone with long, straight hair and super pale skin like Nicole Kidman? Or perhaps you conjure images of Prince Harry on his wedding day. Certainly famous gingers like this get lots of attention for their unique looks. But that doesn't mean that all red-headed people are Caucasian with fine, straight hair. In fact, you don't have to be white to be ginger at all. There are indeed redheads of color, according to the Big Redhead book, Inside the Secret Society of Red Hair by Aaron La Rosa. Additionally, you can find redheads of color all over the world, according to an article in Vice magazine, thanks to human migration. In the article, Barry Starr, a geneticist from Stanford University, said, red hair carriers in the Caribbean and Africa are for the most part due to migration or gene flow. So the ginger gene is essentially an import in those areas. Fascinating. The mutation on the MUC1R gene that gives gingers their unique coloring doesn't just affect the way they look. In a curious twist, gingers also feel pain and respond to painkilling agents differently than their blonde and brunette counterparts. For one, redheads are more sensitive to certain kinds of pain, thermal pain, which we'll discuss later, according to a study by the National Institutes of Health. In addition to that, the study also concluded that redheads are more resistant to lidocaine, a local anesthetic, than the rest of us. Plus, they need more anesthetic on the operating table, according to another study. So redheads aren't lying or being dramatic about the pain of medical and dental procedures. They're legit wired a little bit differently, and science proves it. And that's not all, either. Apparently our red-headed sisters respond better to opiates than both men and non-ginger ladies, according to Science Daily. Who knew gingers had all kind of magic going on? There's even more sorcery afoot when it comes to redheads and their superpowers. According to the Big Redhead book, gingers make more vitamin D in their bodies than the rest of us normies. That's due thanks to evolution, and to their concentration historically in cloudy European countries. Both have helped them manufacture more vitamin D more efficiently today. By extension, then, gingers don't need to spend as much time in the sun as others do to hit their needed vitamin D levels. That's a good thing, considering how sensitive to the sun people with pale skin can be. In addition to needing less sunlight, there are other advantages to being a super efficient vitamin D manufacturer. Specifically, gingers are less at risk for vitamin D deficiency, which means they're in turn less at risk for conditions like diabetes, rickets, and arthritis. Sounds like they may have won the genetic lottery. If you're ever in an emergency, you'd be fortunate to have a redhead on your squad to help you get through it. That's because redheads are super efficient with regard to adrenaline, yet another superpower our ginger brethren possess. We're beginning to suspect they might be superhuman with all of these genetic advantages. The superior adrenal function that gingers possess is twofold. Not only do they produce more of the hormone compared to regular folks, but they also can access it more speedily than the rest of us, according to Red, A Natural History of the Redhead. That means that redheads can operate better in fight or flight situations, which would definitely give them a better chance of survival. Could this be an explanation as to why redheads are known for having a fast and fiery temper? It's doubtful, but it does make you wonder what other impacts all that extra adrenaline might have on gingers. It sounds crazy, but it's true. Redheads have such a unique biochemistry that they smell differently than the rest of the population, according to the Big Redhead book. This was first recorded all the way back in 1866 by Dr. Augustin Galopin in his book La Parfume de la Femme. In it, Galopin discusses his theory that women smell differently based on their hair color, and noted that red-headed women smelled like ambergris. While Galopin's findings weren't exactly scientific, there's definitely science at work when it comes to the bouquet of gingers. That's because their skin mantle, the invisible, sebaceous layer over the skin is more acidic than everyone else's. The result? When you spray perfume or apply scented oil to ginger skin, it smells different than it does on blondes or brunettes. It also doesn't last as long, so redheads may have to reapply any scent sooner. What a bizarre phenomenon. Do you have a ginger friend who's always complaining that it's too hot or too cold? Do you just write her off, thinking she's just being fragile? Or are you nice enough to stash a sweater in your car for the next time she needs one? Well, once again, science is on the side of our red-headed friends. The same study that proved that gingers need more anesthetic than non-gingers also validated your cold red-headed friend, as it showed that redheads are more sensitive to thermal pain. That means she really is more vulnerable to the extremes of hot and cold temperatures. There's clearly no end to the mysteries. So what is it about the MUC1R gene that renders redheads so sensitive to more extreme temps? Turns out it may be causing the temperature detecting gene to work overtime, so it's literally affecting how temperature is perceived on a genetic level. It's clear that redheads have all kinds of superpowers that separate them from the rest of us normies. But being of the ginger tribe isn't always advantageous, especially when it comes to certain diseases and conditions, according to Red, A Natural History of the Redhead. For one, on top of not being able to tan well, redheads are more susceptible to developing skin cancers like melanoma, according to Science Daily. Fortunately, scientists have shown that there are ways to decrease the risk beyond limiting sun exposure, and their hope. Beauty maven Chloe Morello is a legend in the industry. With millions of followers across YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, Morello is one of the most influential beauty vloggers in the world. The Australian makeup artist has been steadily blogging and vlogging since 2012. Since then, she has built up a massive following and become one of the most famous names in the beauty industry. She lives a seemingly charmed life filled with glamour, but she didn't start off that way. Morello comes from humble origins and pursued a couple of other career paths before becoming the YouTube star we know and love. The self-made star has worked hard to get where she is today, rising to the top through a combination of dedication and natural talent. How did Morello become so famous, and what's she doing with her newly acquired celeb status? Let's find out. Here's everything you don't know about Chloe Morello. Morello has always loved makeup, but she had no formal training when she got her start as a freelance makeup artist. She began her career in the makeup industry in 2009, doing makeup while working towards a college degree. Morello eventually dropped out of college and then pursued a diploma in makeup, and then ended up dropping out of beauty school as well. I don't think I really learned anything new from that other than the special effects, so I moved back home before it actually finished and worked at my family's hotel, she told Beauty Haven. The fact that Morello didn't finish her makeup course hasn't hurt her career at all. Anyone who has watched her video tutorials knows that she applies makeup with flawless precision, like any highly trained makeup artist would. Her millions of YouTube subscribers clearly agree and look to Morello as the seasoned professional that she is. After dropping out of college and then beauty school, Morello briefly moved back home and worked for her family's hotel. She found that small-town life wasn't for her, though, especially as her friends had moved away. Bored and lonely, Morello started blogging and gained a modest following. She moved to the larger city of Canberra, where she put her makeup tutorial videos on hold while searching for a job, eventually landing a gig in a crematorium where she sold plots and designed plaques. It was while working at the crematorium that I used my makeup videos as an outlet and to be creative and have fun outside of work hours, she told the Daily Greatest. That was in 2012, and my channel just grew and grew like crazy. Her YouTube channel gained more and more followers until Morello became one of the most recognized beauty vloggers in the industry. Who would have thought she'd have a crematorium to thank for giving her that push to reach her creative dreams? Morello worked hard to build up her YouTube following, but there's another reason that she was catapulted to fame. She had already built up a steady following when an on-air incident made her channel get a lot more attention. Morello told Pop Sugar about her rise to fame. "I uploaded a Kim Kardashian smoky eye look, which did quite well, and that was the first time I realized that creating content that is on trend was a really great way to be discovered by more people," she said. "But to be completely honest, one of my videos went viral when I had a slight wardrobe malfunction involving a low-cut top, and I started to get a lot of new followers." Morello laughed off the incident with her trademark sense of humor. "While we wouldn't recommend deliberately staging a wardrobe malfunction on live TV in order to get viewers, an accidental one sure is one way to get the attention of the internet. Some people might get caught up in the fame and the glamour of being a famous celebrity, but Morello has managed to stay humble. Morello is the kind of woman who isn't afraid to laugh at herself, and that's a large part of the reason her fans love her so much. Her self-deprecating humor helps endear her to her audience, and also shows that she has managed to keep grounded in spite of her fame. I know my audience loves it when I make fun of myself and not take myself too seriously," she told Pop Sugar. Morello also believes in remaining true to yourself, no matter what. "It would be way too tiring to try to be someone that you are not, so we should all embrace ourselves for all of our differences," she said. "If you have confidence and believe in yourself, then you really can take on the world. Being a YouTube sensation is hard work. It's easy to view people who get famous on YouTube as accidental celebrities making easy money from the comfort of their home, but creating the kind of high-quality video tutorials Morello makes takes a lot of effort." Morello has a filming studio set up in her living room, which is where she films most of her videos. "It takes me at least 4 hours to set up and film a makeup look," she told Beauty Haven. "Then it takes another 4 hours to edit on my MacBook. It's a long and tedious process. I absolutely hate editing." On top of filming, editing, and releasing a couple of videos each week, Morello also spends a lot of time responding to emails, maintaining her social media accounts, and making public appearances. Being a YouTube celebrity is a full-time job, and one that keeps Morello on her feet. It makes sense that someone who has built their entire career around makeup and beauty would be picky about how their own makeup is done. Morello is so particular about her makeup that she allows absolutely no one else to come near her with a makeup brush. The only way any cosmetics are applied to her face is if she is doing it herself. "I always do it," she said in an interview with Kate Waterhouse. "I don't like how other people do my makeup. I am a makeup vlogger, so it actually blows my mind when people suggest that I have a makeup artist. Because that's what I do, and usually if they interview me, it's because they're interested in my makeup vlog, and it's just funny that they think that I need a makeup artist." Morello is popular all over the world, with many of her followers hailing from the Middle East. "I love creating Arabic makeup looks," Morello told Beauty Haven. "I have a really big Middle Eastern following. Saudi Arabia is my third largest viewership, so I love tailoring looks to those areas. I also get such good feedback when I do that, and it's great to connect with other women from different areas, so definitely love doing Arabic looks." While she has created many makeup tutorials for Muslim women following her friend's request to create a makeup look for the Muslim holiday Eid al-Fitr, She's gotten some pushback for wearing a traditional headscarf in the videos. According to Morello, though, most Muslim women who have seen the videos appreciate her videos and have requested more. The majority of criticism came from non-Muslim women, she told the Sydney Morning Herald. Unsurprisingly, Morello has a lot of beauty products at home that take up a lot of shelf space. She gets sent a lot of beauty products in the mail, and sorts through them weekly. I have a whole room just for my makeup and filming space, she told Mustache magazine. I have 3 big chests of drawers for it all and it just gets added, so when I'm filming or putting on makeup I just try to reach for something I haven't used before or in a while to make sure it all gets a go. Traveling with so much makeup naturally requires some clever maneuvering. I have to evenly distribute the beauty products around the suitcase so it doesn't fall over, she told BNKR. She does keep her purse a bit lighter, only opting for the essentials. She told Elle that she only carries lip balm, lip liner, foundation, concealer, mascara, and a product to plump her eyebrows in her purse. A lot of celebs flat out deny having any cosmetic procedures done, but Morello is completely open about hers. There's a certain amount of stigma when it comes to undergoing such procedures, and Morello's openness is helping to change that. She has gotten Botox and talked about it on her YouTube channel. She even brought a camera along to her lip injection procedure so that her fans could have a front row seat to her transformation. Morello revealed in her blog that she had always been self-conscious about the thinness of her lips. I adore full lips and have always hated that my own lips weren't beautiful and plump, she said. I have a naturally very full bottom lip, but my top lip was always very thin and flat. I felt that I didn't look good with lip products on and often didn't even bother wearing lip products for this reason. It definitely got me down more than you would think. Morello's success and fame have earned her a lot of followers, and many of them want to know how they can follow in her footsteps and find success on YouTube. It's important to upload regularly and invest in good equipment, she told Beauty Haven. It's hard though. I started out on a $99 camera and then worked my way up when I could afford it. But I definitely think I could have experienced faster growth on my channel if I had planned ahead and set it all up before even starting, so if you can do that, buy a... She's very self-conscious about the way she looks. We tell her she's beautiful all the time but she won't believe it. After it happened, Mia Lily felt so self-conscious she didn't want to go to school anymore, but she went on Friday and she told me, "I won't let them win." I'm so proud of her. She has the kindest heart. She always gives homeless people her pocket money, and if you ask her if she wants something from a shop she'll say she needs to get something for her dad and sisters first. She's so willing to open her heart to people. Even if they're horrible to her she calls them her friends. I don't understand why they can't treat her with the same kindness. The mum also contacted Norfolk police to report the cyberbullying and says they were brilliant at consoling Mia Lily. A spokesman for Norfolk Constabulary confirmed the investigation is still ongoing, and Karina is now urging all parents to watch their children's internet activity more diligently. She said, "When Mia Lily told me she had set up an Instagram account, I told her straight away it needed to be taken down and uninstalled as she's not old enough yet. She did what I asked like she normally does and took it down. We didn't hear anything else of it until we heard about the poll. Kids don't know how to set their accounts to private so it's all public and someone got hold of her photo. I reported it to the police and they have been brilliant. They told Mia Lily it's not her fault because she has been blaming herself. She thinks it's her fault for setting up an account. She has been a victim of severe bullying before. The kids used to rub her tummy and call her fat. We used to live in London and we moved to Norwich for a fresh start. We had finally got her confidence back up, but now it is completely gone again. Her dad has been so strong for her, he always is in these situations. And her little sister Lexi May is so angry for her. We're doing our best to have as much family time as possible. As a mom, you blame yourself. You wonder if you're doing something wrong, putting her in the wrong clothes or shoes. You think it's your fault that your child is being targeted. But it's the internet. Bullies are more confident online. They feel like they can do whatever they want when they're hidden behind a computer screen, but there needs to be consequences. Parents need to be so vigilant when their children use the internet. And if some parents do think it's okay to let their kids use social media, then they need to keep an eye on what they're posting. We've all had bad hair experiences, but one mom was left in tears after her son returned home with a Dumb and Dumber haircut. Candace Haynes, 33, from Birmingham, had trusted her dad Ron Collins, 64, to take her 5-year-old son Kobe for a trim. After paying £10 for the short back and sides haircut, and appearing to be pleased with the outcome, the pair headed home. But the full-time mom was horrified by her son's new wonky do, saying he looked just like Jim Carrey's character Lloyd from the Dumb and Dumber films. She said, "When Kobe walked through the door with my dad, I couldn't believe it. His blonde fringe was completely uneven in the middle. I have no idea how my dad even let him leave the hairdressers looking like that. I was furious. It looked like the hairdresser had used a bowl to cut around his head. I only wanted him to have a little trim, and he ended up looking like the character Lloyd." The gobsmacked mom had to pretend that she liked her son's haircut, telling him it was beautiful, after the youngster seemed pretty chuffed with it. She sent him to school with the quirky barnet, but, to avoid embarrassment, told everyone his haircut was botched, as she didn't want other moms thinking she had cut his hair herself. Candace said she can look back and laugh now and is thankful that his uneven fringe has since been sorted. And while she doesn't know the name of the offending Birmingham salon, she definitely won't be allowing her dad to take him to the hairdressers ever again. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. We pay for. A Russian mother is to face trial for murder after allegedly starving her teenage daughter to death. Oksana Demyanova, 37, convinced her 14-year-old daughter Victoria her weight loss was as a result of cancer and diabetes, say prosecutors. But she was in fact suffering from malnutrition rather than any illness. Demyanova is now in custody and will face trial for the murder of her daughter, who died a fortnight ago in her hometown Krasnokamsk in the Perm region. Alexander Bastrykin, head of the powerful investigative committee which probes serious crimes, has taken personal charge of the case, which has shocked Russia. The local authorities have also begun an investigation after it emerged neighbors and teachers spotted her dramatic weight loss but took no action. Before her death, Victoria had rapidly declined in weight to 4.5 stone. Classmates noticed she was becoming thinner, but she told them she was ill, while parents claimed she was only being fed twice a week. Demyanova was warned by teachers about her daughter's weight loss, but was only interested in the child's academic performance and no action was taken, it was reported. A classmate said, "By the end of the school year we noticed that she had seriously lost weight. She was not herself anymore. She did not answer our questions." Nadia Ramashova, the mother of one of Victoria's classmates, said, "We noticed in May that she was losing weight, and hardly moving. We thought it was because of exam stress, and we lost the sight of it. Anna Viktomova, a friend's mother, said, "We know that Oksana fed her only twice a week." A local newspaper reported, the mother told her daughter that she was suffering from diabetes and cancer, but it was not true. Before being detained and charged, Demyanova denied the claims against her in interviews with local media. Her daughter stopped eating after some friend told her she was fat, but she didn't seek help for fear she would be taken off her. But she refused to reply when asked why she told her child that she had cancer and diabetes. "What is written about me is not true. I loved my daughter," she said. Svetlana Denisova, regional children's ombudsman, said, "The indifference of neighbors is raising lots of questions. The child was asking for food and they did not report it to the local police. There are also questions to be answered by the girls' school teachers. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. We pay for videos too. Click here. A teenage girl is on track to become the first human to set foot on Mars. Alyssa Carson has always dreamt of going into space, and is now working with NASA to make it happen. The 17-year-old, who lives in Hammond, Louisiana, is a space obsessive. Her desire to leave Earth began after watching the Backyardigans cartoon as a child. In the show, a group of animal pals go on imaginary adventures, including a mission to Mars, in one episode. Speaking to Teen Vogue, Alyssa said, "I thought, this red planet is so cool. I started watching videos of rovers landing on Mars. I had a gigantic map of Mars in my room I would look at. We started getting telescopes so we could look at space." She's since made it her life's ambition to set foot on the red planet, and is currently training to become a fully fledged astronaut. "I did the same thing as other kids, like switching my mind about careers, wanting to be a teacher or the president one day," Alyssa revealed. "But the way I always thought about it was I would become an astronaut, go to Mars, come back, and then be a teacher or the president." Alyssa is hoping to join NASA's proposed 2033 mission to Mars, which would see humans land on the planet for the first time ever. By then, Alyssa will be 32 years old, which is a suitable age for a NASA space mission. She can't apply for NASA's astronaut training program until she's 18, but it's understood that the space agency is working with Alyssa to make her dream come true. Alyssa joined the United States Space Camp back in 2008, which she's attended 18 times since. The space-obsessed teen is also the first person to complete the NASA Passport program, by visiting all 14 NASA visitor centers. But her work towards a Mars trip doesn't stop there. Alyssa is the youngest person to be accepted to and graduate from the Space Prep Advanced Possum Academy, which makes her certified to go to space, and technically classifies her as an astronaut trainee. Her training has involved learning about microgravity and how oxygen deprivation affects the body. Back in April, she attended an underwater course to help her build my resume. The spacefaring community is international, so there's a big emphasis on being able to speak multiple languages. That's why Alyssa is studying all 4 languages her high school offers: English, Chinese, French and Spanish. The biggest challenge is time and getting everything done at such a young age while also still attending high school, Alyssa said, speaking to Board Panda. "Continuing to train at a young age will also be further difficulties for me, but I have done great with it so far." Her time at Project Possum's Space Academy has given her the opportunity to undertake high-altitude mission training in a hyperbaric altitude facility. She's also received spacesuit training, and has a Possum flight suit of her own to keep. Getting humans to Mars will prove tricky, however. Earlier this week, Canadian space hero Chris Hadfield revealed how we could have sent humans to Mars in the 1960s, but that there's a very good reason why we didn't. The former International Space Station commander said the risk of death for astronauts was simply too high. We could send people to Mars decades ago, Hadfield told Business Insider. The technology that took us to the moon and back when I was just a kid, that technology can take us to Mars. Hadfield was referring to the famous Apollo 11 mission. It was the spaceflight that landed the first 2 people on the moon. Americans Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin touched down on the moon on July 20, 1969. And Hadfield is convinced that same spaceship technology could put us on Mars. Astronauts who spend a long time in space face significant risks. One is the threat from deep space radiation, which can cause cancer due to prolonged exposure. And a 2016 study published in the Nature journal found that astronauts who spend a long time in space have a much greater risk of deadly heart disease. Hadfield compared the feat of putting humans on Mars to Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan, who famously circumnavigated the world between 1519 and 1522. Magellan, when he launched in 1519, they launched with 5 ships and 250 people to try and just go around the world once, and almost everybody died, Hadfield explained. They only came back with like 15 or 18 people and 1 out of the give ships. He said current space travel mechanisms of burning chemical rockets is the equivalent of using a sailboat or a pedal boat to try and travel around the world. That isn't stopping space agencies daring to dream of putting humans on Mars, though. NASA is currently aiming for a 2033 launch, which appears to be on course for now. And billionaire PayPal founder Elon Musk is working towards an even earlier goal with his own galaxy trotting firm, SpaceX. SpaceX currently expects to send its first cargo mission to Mars in 2022, with a human mission mooted for 2024. Excitingly, Musk believes that his ship will eventually be able to manage the Earth to Mars journey in just 30 days. Musk claims that it is vital for humans to reach Mars before the next probable World War, with a colonized red planet likely to reduce the chances of an extended new dark age. The heiress stepdaughter of British screen star Nigel Havers has been arrested over her connections to an alleged U.S. sex cult. Claire Bronfman, 39, who allegedly helped fund controversial self-help group NCIVM and its leader Keith Raniere, was set to be indicted on criminal charges of racketeering conspiracy last night. Investigators believe Raniere's group was a front for a brainwashing sex cult, where women were even branded with the leader's initials. Claire Bronfman's mother, British-born Georgiana, is now married to Chariots of Fire star Havers, 66. Bronfman's father was late Canadian billionaire Edgar Bronfman Sr., the former CEO of beverage firm Seagram and a former associate of Sir Richard Branson. She allegedly used part of her fortune to bankroll Raniere and NCIVM. The indictment also accuses NCIVM co-founder Nancy Salzman, her daughter Lauren and bookkeeper Kathy Russell. It is claimed they participated in identity theft, money laundering and altering records. This brings the total number of arrests linked to NCIVM to 6, including Raniere and his right-hand woman Alison Mack, the former Smallville TV star. Bronfman was last night set to appear in a court in Brooklyn, New York. She has hired Susan R. Nipples, one of the top white-collar attorneys in the U.S. The indictment against her reads, Rainier and his inner circle, including the defendants Claire Bronfman, Allison Mack, Nancy Salzman, Lauren Salzman and Kathy Russell, comprised an organized criminal enterprise. The principal purpose of the enterprise was to obtain financial and personal benefits for the members of the enterprise by promoting the defendant Keith Rainier, and by recruiting new members into the pyramid organizations. By promoting Rainier and recruiting others, the members of the enterprise expected to receive financial opportunities and increased power and status within the enterprise. XIVM, founded by Rainier and Salzman in 1998, was built as a self-help group to empower women and based in Albany, New York. But authorities have said it was a front for sex trafficking and money laundering. They launched an investigation after former followers spoke out about disturbing practices, including branding the followers with the initials KR. Rainier, 57, is now languishing in jail on sex trafficking charges and has been accused of abusing girls as young as 12. Actress Mack, 35, is under house arrest after being accused of recruiting girls into the group. Bronfman and sister Sarah are said to have helped woo Mack when she considered joining XIVM. Speaking out in defense of XIVM last year, Bronfman said, "I retired from a very The devastated family of Novichok victim Dawn Sturgis have described her as a gentle soul who give her last penny to somebody in need." Mom of 3 Dawn, 44, died on Sunday, and her partner Charlie Rowley, 45, is fighting for life after they handled an item contaminated by the deadly nerve agent in Salisbury. Her heartbroken family have today released an emotional statement paying tribute to her. They said, "Dawn's death has been devastating for us. Dawn will always be remembered by us as a gentle soul who was generous to a fault. She would do anything for anybody, and those who knew Dawn would know that she would gladly give her last penny to somebody in need. She had the biggest of hearts, and she will be dreadfully missed by both her immediate and wider family. Our thoughts and prayers also go out to Charlie and his family, and we wish Charlie a speedy recovery. We would like to take this opportunity to pass on our sincerest thanks to all of the NHS staff involved in Dawn's care, especially the wonderful doctors and nurses at Salisbury District Hospital, who we know afforded Dawn every possible chance of survival and treated her with the utmost care and dignity. We would also like to pass on our thanks to the police and the local community for their support. It comes after it was revealed Dawn and Charlie were exposed to a substantially higher dose of the Russian nerve agent than the Skripals. What we know so far. Former KGB spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia were critically ill after coming into contact with the deadly substance in the sleepy Wiltshire city in March. The Kremlin denies claims it tried to assassinate Sergei and is responsible for the death of Dawn. Murder cops are still trying to find a case they think held the nerve that killed her. Speaking outside New Scotland Yard yesterday, Assistant Commissioner Neil Basu said, "It is utterly appalling that a British citizen has died having been exposed to a Novichok nerve agent. But we're determined to find out how Dawn and her partner Charlie Rowley came into contact with such a deadly substance, and will do everything we can to bring those responsible to justice." Their reaction was so severe, it resulted in Dawn's death and Charlie being critically ill. This means that they must have got a high dose, and our hypothesis is that they must have handled a container we are seeking. Dawn and Charlie may have picked up a Novichok container while visiting Queen Elizabeth Gardens in Salisbury on June 29. They then passed it between themselves, and the deadly nerve agent leaked onto their hands and absorbed through their skin. Detectives believe either Dawn or Charlie may have carried it home as they possibly thought it was valuable and could have dumped it in a bin. The poison probe spread to Swindon last night as police wrapped an Audi in cling film before towing it away from a residential street. Cops also sent away a red van for testing after it emerged he gave Charlie a life only hours before he was rushed to hospital. A man believed to be the father of Dawn spoke from behind the door at a terraced house in Durrington saying, "I'm devastated." Driver Ben Milsom, 36, fears traces of the killer chemical could still be in his house. Ben said, "Charlie was in the middle front seat. I'm not sure if he brought anything into the van because I wasn't looking." Yesterday Dawn's heartbroken dad told of his devastation at her death. The home is not far from the flat where Dawn and her partner collapsed last Saturday. Investigators believe Miss Sturgis and her partner may have found a vial or syringe used to transport the toxin used in the attack on ex-Russian spy Sergei Skripal and daughter Yulia in Salisbury in March. The father-daughter pair survived the attack, with officials saying they were appalled innocent members of the public were now implicated in the international incident. And the family of critically ill Charlie now fear the worst, saying he could just have days to live. Prime Minister Theresa May said, "I am appalled and shocked by the death of Dawn Sturgis, and my thoughts and condolences go to her family and loved ones." Police and security officials are working urgently to establish the facts, now being investigated as a murder. Angus McPherson, Wiltshire Police and Crime Commissioner, said, "Miss Sturgis was an innocent member of the public who should have been able to go about her daily life without becoming an unwilling victim in such an unprecedented, international, incident. I am horrified and appalled that an illegal and lethal nerve agent has been used on the streets of our county." Assistant Commissioner Neil Basu, the head of UK counter-terrorism policing said, "This is shocking and tragic news. Dawn leaves behind her family, including 3 children, and our thoughts and prayers are with them at this extremely difficult time. This terrible news has only served to strengthen our resolve to identify and bring to justice the person or persons responsible for what I can only describe as an outrageous, reckless and barbaric act." Dawn, who lived in John Baker House, a homeless hostel in Salisbury, was seen buying alcohol from her local corner shop just hours before she fell ill on June 30th. The Defence Science and Technology Laboratory at Portondown confirmed to police that the couple had both been exposed in Avicoke. Further tests of samples from Dawn and the man showed that they were exposed to the nerve agent after touching a contaminated item with their hands, but the source has not yet been established. Police said there was no evidence that they visited any of the sites that were decontaminated following the attempted murders of Sergei and Yulia Skripal in March this year. Police said that the investigation. The young daughter of Novichok victim Dawn Sturgis told friends and family at her funeral how much she loved her mother in her moving eulogy. Salisbury Crematorium was packed with mourners as people remembered the mom of 3 who died earlier this month, 8 days after being poisoned. According to Rev. Philip Bromley, who led the service, Miss Sturgis's daughter said how much she loved her mother and how much her mother loved her, resulting in a round of applause. Ms. Sturgis's partner Charlie Rowley, 45, was in the front row for the service, which also included a eulogy by her sister Claire. Among the music played at the service was James Blunt's song Beautiful Dawn, the hymn Shalom Shalom, and I'm Gonna Live Forever from Fame. Miss Sturgis's coffin, adorned with floral tributes, was taken into the chapel earlier to give her family some time on their own. Speaking afterwards, Mr. Bromley said, "There was a sense of celebration that we wanted to celebrate Dawn's life. As you can imagine, there was a lot of mixed emotions, and there was obviously still shock, and people were tremendously tearful having lost a loved one, and yet there was a bit of upbeat spirit to make sure that Dawn had the kind of send-off that they would have wanted." We ended the service with fame. I'm going to live forever, which is a great message for any funeral service to have. It summed her up because she was known for dancing to things. Dawn's sister Claire gave an extremely moving eulogy, and Dawn's daughter got up and said a couple of lines, which resulted in a round of applause from everybody. She just said how much she loved her mom and how much her mom had loved her, and really got to the very nerve of what it must be like to lose your own mother. It's an awful thing, but she was so strong. The tragic and suddenness of her death was reflected in many of the thoughts and hearts of the public gathered there. Charlie was sat on the front row, obviously very emotional. It was lovely to see him there, and I'm really hoping that the service will have given him a healing that he will doubtless need to have in the days and months to come. The funeral directors worked with Public Health England (FE) and the crematorium to make sure everything was as safe as possible. In the end, nothing was different at all, Mr. Bromley said. I think the precautions had been so stringent that by the time the funeral directors were able to take care of Dawn, they were able to behave in any other way for any other funeral. Pallbearers took the coffin in quite a bit before the service began, so the family could have a little bit of headspace to think about Dawn before they were surrounded by hundreds of people. I was able to touch the coffin and do the final committal in the same way I would have done for any other service. Ms. Sturgis died aged 44 on July 8 after she and Mr. Rowley fell ill after coming into contact with Novichok at the end of June. Mr. Rowley has said the nerve agent took just 15 minutes to poison Miss Sturgis after she sprayed the oily substance onto her wrists, believing it was perfume he had given her as a gift. A rail chief has sparked outrage by claiming Britain's trains are the envy of Europe ahead of a summer of strikes. Robert Nisbet, regional director of the Rail Delivery Group, said other nations and the EU could only dream of having transport as efficient as ours yesterday. He told BBC Radio 5 Live, "We have a hugely successful railway in many ways, much more so than many countries in Western Europe. A lot of us get on those gleaming fast trains that go from city to city in France and Spain and Italy. But a lot of their suburban commuter lines are terribly inefficient," said Nisbet, who also admitted passengers had also faced appalling service. He was forced to apologize for his comments after the Rail Delivery Group revealed his comments were based on a passenger survey from 2013. Recent figures from the National Rail Passenger Survey in January found more than 50% of customers were unsatisfied. Nisbet told the Daily Telegraph, "I am sorry, as clearly my comments do not reflect the recent experience of some of our customer. I fully understand how frustrating recent disruption in parts of the country has been for people." He was widely mocked on social media for being out of touch with the views of everyday commuters. His comments came ahead of a summer of travel misery for commuters, with fresh strikes set to continue until early September. Members of the Rail, Maritime and Transport (RMT) union are taking industrial action over a dispute regarding the future of guards on trains. Industrial action, which kicked off on July 26, will continue across the network and impact journeys into London, terminating at Waterloo, Victoria, Clapham Junction, Wimbledon and Richmond stations. The RMT union, which represents guards and drivers, called for the strikes over plans to remove staff from trains, which would then become driver-only operated. Unions have said the move could potentially make trains more dangerous, because no one will be keeping an eye on people getting on and off trains, as well as keeping passengers safe during their journeys. However, the Office of Road and Rail has insisted the trains will be safe so long as the right equipment and training is provided. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp. A cruise company has sparked outrage after staff shot a polar bear as it attacked a guard. Many of the critics on social media, including comedian Ricky Gervais, blamed the attack on human intrusion into the polar bear's territory. Norwegian authorities announced that a polar bear attacked and injured a guard who was leading tourists off a cruise ship on Norway's Svalbard archipelago, within the Arctic Circle, on Saturday. Another employee for the cruise company, Hapag-Lloyd Cruises, then shot the polar bear dead. Spokeswoman Nigger Edmanen said that the polar bear was shot in an act of self-defense by the second guard. The guard, now said to be in a stable condition, suffered non-life-threatening head injuries. Many Twitter users were left unsatisfied with this answer. Comedian Ricky Gervais called the cruise company morons. He added, "Let's get too close to a polar bear in its natural environment and then kill it if it gets too close." In a response to another user, he explained, "My point was stay away from the bear in the first place. The human wouldn't be hurt and the bear wouldn't be dead." Atmaro2Bear agreed that the tourists were to blame. He tweeted, "Tourists go to the farthest regions of northern Norway to see the wildlife, but then shoot a polar bear when it's too close? HMMMM." Another account, Extinction Symbol, wrote, "Polar bear killed for acting like a wild animal." Twitter user @DanceSparky1 said, "They are wild and endangered, leave it alone." Humans think everything on this planet is either food or entertainment purely for them. Arctic tourism to this region has risen sharply in the last few years. It is expected that another 18 cruise ships will be docking at this Svalbard port in just the next week. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp. A pedophile who downloaded more than 2,000 sick images of children admitted to police he saw 13-year-old girls as little flirts. Craig Sidgwick was spared jail for his crimes which lasted almost 2 decades. Sidgwick pleaded guilty at Teesside Crown Court on Friday to 3 charges of making indecent images of children, reported Teesside Live. The court heard that 481 of the images, downloaded between 1999 and 2017, were classified in the worst category. Jenny Hay, prosecuting, told the court Sidgwick admitted to police when they arrested him at his then home in Salisbury Street, Thornaby, on June 20 last year that he had been using peer-to-peer sharing. She said the images involved prepubescent children ranging in age between 5 and 6 years old, with some involving 12 to 18-month-old children. More than 1,000 images, some of which were moving images, were also seized that were not categorized. The court heard Sidgwick told officers during a police interview that he was only interested in viewing the older children. Miss Hay said, in interview he told police that the younger ones didn't interest him as he was not into rape and that 13 to 14-year-olds were little flirts anyway. The court was told there was over 200 hours of footage that Sidgwick possessed of children being abused. Nigel Soppett, mitigating, told the court that Sidgwick suffers from anxiety after being subjected to an alleged attack by a man who found out what he'd done. He added the defendant's partner had left him and that he had lost his job as a delivery driver after his crimes came to light. Mr. Soppett said his client was seeking help from a psychiatrist and that he was deeply ashamed of his offending. He said Sidgwick takes care of his father who was not aware of the crimes he had committed. Recorder Andrew Sutcliffe QC told the court when passing sentence that he had taken into account the fact that Sidgwick was helping his father and that he had been a victim of an assault. Sidgwick, now of Westdale Road, Thornaby, North Yorkshire, was given a 20-month prison sentence suspended for 2 years and ordered. Police are appealing for information to try to find 2 teenage girls who have gone missing in Bolton, Greater Manchester. Rhiannon Sandiford, 15, and 17-year-old Leah Darby are both missing and are believed to be together. Police say they are concerned for the pair's welfare. Greater Manchester Police posted an appeal on Facebook, said, "Do you know the whereabouts of Rhiannon Sandiford and Leah Darby? They are both currently missing and are believed to be together. If you know where they are, please call us on 101 as we are concerned for their welfare." At least one of the girls is understood to have been missing since July 20th. Greater Manchester Police have not said where the girls were last seen. Anyone with information regarding Rhiannon and Police rescued a trapped dog from a locked van in sweltering 31°C heat yesterday. Officers smashed its closed windows to retrieve the panting pup after it was spotted stuck inside. Its owner was given a telling off by the Hero cops in Bromley, South London on Wednesday, where temperatures topped over 30°C. One officer told local paper The News Shopper, "The window was smashed so that the dog could be removed from the hot van and the driver has been given suitable words of advice by the attending officers." Tweeting pics of the grateful pooch today, a spokesperson for the Met Police in Bromley wrote, "We were alerted to this dog locked in a van in Bromley this afternoon. It's 30 degrees outside. Officers left with no option but to break van window to get the animal out." Dogs die in hot cars number 520 pi. It comes after pet owners were urged this week to also keep their pets out of the sun and off the streets as baking tarmac reaches melting point. Twitter user @Zucchinosaurus posted a shocking snap of a dog with badly burned and blistered paws. They wrote, "Before you take your dog for a walk in hot weather, take off your shoes/socks and stand on the pavement. If it's too hot for you, it's too hot for your dog." And a social media post shared by pet welfare account Keely's Pet Service explained how walkways can reach baking temperatures. They said that once temperatures exceed 31°C, the asphalt can be as hot as 62°C. The RSPCA says dogs should only be walked early in the morning or at night when they will not burn their paws on the pavement or be at increased risk of heat stroke. And owners should be vigilant for signs that their pet has suffered painful burns, including limping, licking their feet, or suffering from blistered, red or darkened pads. Meanwhile, signs that dogs are suffering from heat stroke include heavy panting, vomiting, and red or dark gums and tongue. If they do show these signs, they should be cooled gradually by giving them cool but not cold water and pouring cool water over them. Charming Prince Harry lands a kiss on Meghan Markle at a posh polo bash in Windsor today, their first time back in the royal town since their wedding day. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex looked relaxed and happy as they soaked up the sun at the charity event to raise money for children in Africa. Meghan, 36, wore a black dress by Caroline Herrera teamed with white heels at today's St. Paul Polo Club in Berkshire. And before changing into his polo gear, Prince Harry, 33, adopted a relaxed look with jeans, a white shirt and light grey jacket. The sun-kissed Duke took to the field to support his charity St. Paul, to raise money for kids living with HIV and AIDS. The prince played on the St. Paul St. Regis team, captained by his friend Nacho Figueras, against the Royal Salute team. His Royal Highness set up the charity after a 2004 gap-year trip to the nation of Lesotho with Prince Seeiso, the younger brother of King Letsie III. The event is held at the Royal County of Berkshire Polo Club, where it has become an annual fixture. Prince Harry and his new wife will have fond memories of the area, having headed to Windsor to tie the knot in May. The newlyweds attracted a crowd of thousands to their big day, with Meghan happily stepping into her new role as a royal. Among today's attendees was the Duke's friend and former mentor Mark Dyer, as well as former England rugby star Mike Tindall, who is married to the Queen's granddaughter Zara Tindall. In November 2015, St. Paul opened its £2 million Mamahato Children's Centre in Lesotho. The charity runs residential projects providing psychological, social and practical support to children struggling to cope with being HIV positive. Former American actress Meghan has embraced life as the Duchess of Sussex, attending a number of events already by her husband's side. She has also stepped out on her own, heading to Cheshire with the Queen last month. Meghan has previously said she wanted to hit the ground running in her role as a royal. She recently joined her new husband in his work with the Royal Foundation. It's just another step to welcome the 36-year-old into the royal family, with Meghan and her new husband Prince Harry already announced. Vladimir Putin has today led Russia's Navy Day celebrations as the country showed off its huge fleet. The president met with sailors on the national holiday, praising the Navy as Russian warships drove through national waters in a show of force. More than 40 warships and 4,000 sailors were involved in the impressive parade in St. Petersburg, held to commemorate the fleet's 300-year history. Speaking at the parade, Putin praised the Navy for having the highest level of combat readiness. He said, "The Russian fleet successfully resolves the tasks of the country's defense capability, makes a significant contribution to the fight against international terrorism, plays an important role in ensuring strategic parity." For more than 300 years, the fleet has been defending the status of the Russian Federation as a naval power capable of protecting with determination its national interests. The parade includes more than 4,000 mariners of the Baltic, Northern and Black Sea fleets and Caspian flotilla, Sputnik News reported. During the parade, Putin was expected to be taken on the presidential boat, accompanied by Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Vladimir Korolev. The vessel was expected to sail on the Neva River, allowing him to greet crews on the Admiral Makarov frigate, the major amphibious ship Minsk, the small anti-submarine warfare ship Kazanets, the Baltic Fleet corvette Soobrazitelny, the Dmitrov diesel-electric submarine, and the president had a special greeting, with naval officers reported to greet Putin with shouts of "Hurrah! Hurrah! Hurrah!" Today was an opportunity for the Royal Navy to show off, with the Kabardino-Balkaria anti-submarine corvette sending flaming shots into the air as part of the demonstration. A Russian warship also fired missiles during the Navy Day parade in the Black Sea port of Sevastopol. And Sukhoi Su-25 jets were also involved in the celebrations, leaving a trail in the Russian national colors. Similar events were held around Russian cities including Kaliningrad, Sevastopol and Vladivostok. It had previously been hoped Russia's new stealth frigate, the Admiral Gorshkov, would take part in the annual parade. However, the 4,500-ton warship, which is expected to join the Russian fleet by 2025, was considered too. Rats said to be the size of cats are terrorizing an estate after learning how to climb onto residents' balconies. Furious locals in a riddled Dublin housing complex are taking turns to man traps amid fears their children are at serious risk of contracting disease. Tracy Lismore, who lives in one of the affected blocks in Queen Street housing, told Dublin Live, "The place is riddled. People come in and dump in the bins that are for the flats, and people are coming far and wide using them. The rats are going to the bins and climbing on the walls." The kids here are all getting bugs and getting sick. We think it's something to do with it. They're out playing in the complex where these rats are. Miss Lismore claims there is one family living near the bins who were sick for weeks, adding, they're scared to open the door because there's so many hovering outside it. We can't live like this. They're climbing up on the balconies. Some of them are as big as cats. They've been on my balcony, but thank God they haven't got in. She said that her neighbors set traps and catch well over 30 in a night, adding, there's nobody helping us, the corporation won't, the TDS won't, people are going out doing it themselves. About 10 of them sit out together doing it all night, it's not fair on them. According to Dublin Live, Dublin City Council and Pest Control are reluctant to lay poison or set traps near play areas over safety fears. Residents have reacted angrily to this course of action, staging a number of protests including blocking the road with rubbish bins. One council tenant, Sarah Travers, estimates that the problem has affected at least 4 housing blocks and up to 400 residents. She said, the flats are very bad, there's rats out playing with the kids. We now have residents who sit outside all night just to catch them. It's a disgrace. Residents say they plan to keep holding protests until they can get the issue solved, as they continue to hold meetings with councillors. Sun Online has approached Dublin City Council for a comment. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online news team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 020778. The world-famous RAF Red Arrows performed their Ariel ballet while tens of thousands watched in awe. The impressive display took place above Whitburn Windmill in South Tyneside as part of the 30th Sunderland Air Show. The skilled pilots left behind red, white and blue smoke trails as part of the patriotic display. Fans cheered as the aerobatics team whizzed around above houses and a windmill. The RAF Red Arrows were part of a weekend-long celebration of flying. The Sunderland Air Show also played host to dazzling displays by Typhoons, Spitfires, Chinook helicopters and a MiG-15. But this weekend's bad weather disrupted some of the events. Torrential rain and thunder caused some timetabled flights on Saturday to be cancelled. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online news team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207-782-4368. You can WhatsApp us on 07810-791-502. A restaurant owner helplessly saw a real-life crime watch on camera, and it was his own business being robbed. Giovanni Malacrino, 60, logged onto his laptop to check his CCTV to see a live video of the suspect in action on Sunday night, who managed to escape before police arrived. Veteran restaurant owner Giovanni was just about to tuck into his evening meal with a glass of wine when he got a call about a break-in. Footage inside the Italian restaurant called Giovanni's on Park Place in Cardiff city centre shows a man creeping in and breaking into the till. Police are now appealing for information, as Giovanni released images of the villain. Giovanni said, "It was just so frustrating. I couldn't do anything about it." He continued, "They took a few £100 from the till and the tips, but it will cost more than £1,000 to replace the till. I'd been working all day and I just sat down to a nice meal and glass of wine when I got the call. It's not just about the money though, it's the inconvenience. They made a right mess and I don't want my staff to feel unsafe. I think he entered with a knife because he came through the back and cut through the lock on the door." Giovanni got the call from his security company at around 11:30 p.m. on Sunday. Police have released CCTV images of a person they want to speak to in connection with the incident. A South Wales police spokeswoman said, "A man has broken in through the back door and has taken a large quantity of money from the till. CCTV has captured a suspect. Anyone with information should contact police. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp us on 07810 791 500. A Russian woman had her face ripped to shreds when she was glassed by a rival in a savage bust-up at a karaoke bar. Irina Milisheva says she was set upon by Larisa Livanova after objecting to her filming her performance on a mobile phone. She says she asked Livanova to delete the clip, sparking a disagreement that spilled outside the Sputnik Cafe in Apsheronsk, southwestern Russia. Livanova is said to have refused Milisheva's request before launching into the sickening attack. Milisheva, 26, said, "Outside I asked her again to delete the video, and got the following answer: I will not delete anything, I do whatever I want. Right after that, she punched me in the shoulder, then splashed whatever was in the glass into my face." Milisheva says she then tried to defend herself by grabbing hold of her attacker's hands, as she then tore off her necklaces. She added, "She then broke the glass on my head and cut my cheek open with the broken glass." Milisheva is now being helped by Alana Mameva, the wife of FC Krasnodar footballer Pavel Mamaev, 29, who has offered to help pay for plastic surgery. Police are said to have launched an investigation into the alleged incident. It comes as two Russian moms were caught on camera brawling in a kids' playground after one refused to put her cigarette out. An onlooker filmed events in the city of Ufa, the capital of Russia's southwestern Bashkortostan Republic, as the two women traded blows while children looked on. Witness Marina Krapova said, "As I got it, the fat woman was smoking at the children's playground when the other woman asked her to put out the cigarette. The fat woman started shouting and insulting the other one. They started quarreling and fighting. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp us on 07810 791 502. We pay for videos too. Click here to. Sadiq Khan yesterday threatened a new race row with Donald Trump by asking why he was being singled out for blame over terror attacks. Launching a furious counterattack, the Labour mayor said Paris, Nice, Brussels and Berlin had all suffered atrocities, but the US president only ever mentioned London. Allies claimed the president is targeting Mr. Khan because he's a Muslim. Responding to the Sun's interview with Mr. Trump, the mayor said, "Like other cities, we suffered from terror attacks last year. We unfortunately lost 14 people, they're still in our thoughts and prayers. Manchester also suffered a terror attack and lost 22 people including young people. Paris, Nice, Brussels, Berlin, cities in America all suffered terror attacks." Mr. Khan said, "It's for President Trump to explain why he singles me as the mayor of London out, not mayors of other cities." The bitter feud between the two erupted when Mr. Khan attacked the president's vow to ban Muslims from entering America. Speaking to The Sun, the president said the mayor had disrespected America by attacking him personally. He added the Labour heavyweight was doing a very bad job on terrorism by allowing so many migrants to settle in the capital. Mr. Khan yesterday insisted he loved America. He added, "This isn't about me, It really isn't about me. He has made it about me. I can't dictate what he does. That's for him to do. The amount of tweets President Trump has said about me, the amount of interviews he's given, talking about me, volunteering his views on me, that's a problem about him. My job as the Mayor of London is to try and ensure that we as a city enjoy the rights we have. Labour's Shadow Foreign Secretary Emily Thornberry labelled Donald Trump a bully and said she felt sorry for Theresa May. She said, "He behaves like some sort of toddler rampage." A teenage girl in Thailand has a parasitic twin growing out of her chest, complete with 2 extra arms and fingers. Now 14-year-old Veronica Cominges from Iligan City, in the Philippines, is finally going to get the help she needs. She was born with surplus limbs and an oblong-shaped torso which belonged to a parasitic twin which did not develop properly. The extra parts continue to grow and Veronica even cleans her living twin and cuts their fingernails for them. Locals have now raised money for her to fly to neighboring Thailand for an operation to remove them. Veronica said, "When I was little, I thought it was just a foot, but as I grew up, it became bigger. It's heavy, it limits my movement. It keeps swinging. My dress often gets wet." Veronica's mother, Flora Cominges, said their family has a history of twins. She was not able to see a doctor during her pregnancy but knew she was having twins, and even named both. Flora said that Veronica's navel would always get wet because of the liquid that comes out of it. She added, "The liquid that comes out of the opening smells bad, like human excretion." According to Veronica's doctor, the extra limbs can be removed through a simple operation. Dr. Bade Espineda, a pediatric surgeon at the Philippine Children's Medical Center, said, "Most of these cases can be removed because, usually, the body structures involved are not vital. Most of them are just attached to the skin or bones. For surgeons, it is easy to remove." Veronica is now waiting to have her twin removed as soon as possible. The local government office in her village, which has her under its welfare care system, said she is due to fly to Thailand in the coming weeks. A spokesman from the Barangay Council of Cabazanan said, "It has been arranged for Veronica to have an operation. Life has not been easy for her, but she's a very sensible, clever and mature girl. We pay for your stories." Horror fans with a bit of extra cash will be able to rent out a house for Halloween that was used in the iconic 1996 film Scream. The sprawling 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house in Nipples, California house, is where killer Stu Macker lived, and was featured in the finale scene. For only October 27 and 28, thrill-seekers will have full access to a home which organizers insist will be filled with every last terrifying accessory from the film. Organizers Anthony Massey and Nate Ragon, who launched the party Scream Comes Home on Tuesday, said it will be filled with the iconic ghost masks and blood-drenched knives on Tuesday, TMZ reported. Keen partygoers would need to pay £152 ($200) for a basic entry, or £1,330 ($1,750) for an overnight package. Those with even more will be able to make personalized calls using the voice of sadistic serial killer Ghostface, Roger Caxon, for $125. But tickets for the lavish party and overnight package have already sold out. The frightening final party scene, where the high school students met their horrific ends, will be recreated on one night. Massey and Ragon told the website they splashed $22,000 to rent the property, so they are keen to have all the film's memorabilia on display. The mansion was used in the finale scene of the iconic film, which saw Stu Macker, Matthew Lillard, host a wild party for his classmates. Sydney Prescott, Neve Campbell, and her boyfriend Billy Loomis had gone upstairs for some alone time, but he was stabbed by Ghostface. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp us on 07810 791 500. This is a shocking moment. A reckless cyclist plowed into a little girl before riding off, leaving her in tears on the pavement. The disturbing incident was caught on CCTV and shows the impatient rider speeding past a family as they wheeled their bicycles past an antique shop. As the cyclist tries to weave past them, he collides with the little girl's bike, sending her tumbling to the ground. Shockingly, the rider then cycles off, leaving the girl in tears on the road before her horrified father rushes to comfort her. The hit-and-run incident was captured on security cameras outside Grandad's Attic Antique Shop in Sturbridge, Worcestershire on Sunday, July 8 at around 1 p.m. Shop owner Dave Powell, 57, said, "I was inside my shop and I heard some kind of thing going on and a girl crying. I looked out my door and presumed she had fallen off her bike, but then saw her dad come running back towards her and realized that she had been knocked off the bike by an adult. Her dad had chased after him but then come back to see how his daughter was. He was torn between going after the cyclist and seeing how his daughter was. There was a group of people gathered. I gave her a drink and a bowl of water and we mopped her wounds. They were just grazes, but she was very upset. There is a bridge and by the side of the bridge there is a little wall, 18 inches high, and mountain bikers think it is clever to hop up onto the wall and hop off the other end. The family were walking along the wall and as they got to the end he was jumping off. He jumped right into the little girl. I think part of the problem is that it has got so popular. There are more people cycling on the footpath." Mr. Powell said he understood the family had reported the incident to West Mercia Police. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 43. Shoppers in a posh town are purple with rage after Tesco pulled aubergines from its shelves. Customers claim the vegetable vacuum has led to anger, tears and devastation in Cheltenham. Those stewing over their loss have launched an online protest and even told the police of their upset. The furor started when an aubergine fan tweeted Tesco to ask where the veg, which cost 70p each, had gone in the town's superstore. A customer services rep said they'd been discontinued, adding, "I wouldn't be too happy about this myself." Shocked shoppers vented their rage on the Twitter page "Bring Back Our Aubergines." One meme shows an upset boy with the words "feel like pure s******, just want her back." And when Cheltenham cops issued a friendly tweet about enjoying the weekend, British tourists could soon be taking intergalactic holidays thanks to the country's first ever spaceport. Idyllic Highland County Sutherland, in the north of Scotland, has been chosen to be the UK's first space travel hub. Business Secretary Greg Clark announced that the rural community had beaten off stiff competition from Prestwick, Ayrshire, Unst in the Shetlands and Newquay Airport, Cornwall, to be handed the exciting new development. The spaceport will host launches of satellites and rockets into outer space before eventually including commercial flights which will venture outside our atmosphere. Space flights could be worth £4 billion to the UK economy in the next decade, said Mr. Clark. Announcing the deal, the government minister said the spaceport would herald a new British space age. A regulatory framework for passengers' trips into space has been to be established, the Mirror reports. However, The House of Commons did pass the Space Industry Bill, which has paved the way for the Highland Spaceport. The Sutherland proposal said the Amhoin Peninsula was perfect for blasting rockets out of the planet, thanks to its clear skies, sparse population and abundance of land. Once a mecca for shipbuilding, Glasgow now builds more space satellites than any other European city. Richard Branson is also keen on the idea, hoping to use a Brit spaceport as somewhere he can launch commercial joy rides for space tourists, while the site could also be useful for launching government-backed suborbital science missions. A UK space agency could possibly even add to the £50 million of spaceport funding announced by the government last year. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 78 At least 20 people have been injured and one passenger was fighting for their life after a plane crashed into a field near South Africa's capital this afternoon. Photographs taken by bystanders show the wreckage of a Convair plane lying in a field on the outskirts of Pretoria after apparently crashing into a building. At least 19 injured in plane crash near a residential area called Deport, which is near the Wonderboom Airport, emergency services say, according to press agency AF. The charter plane has Martin's Air Charter on the side its fuselage. Russell Myring, a spokesman for paramedic company ER24, says the injuries range from minor to critical. Photographs from the scene show a damaged charter aircraft in a field and a damaged building which the plane apparently flew into. 2 Air Medical Services helicopters have also been pictured at the scene, while a building nearby appears to have been destroyed. Photographs on social media claim to show inside the passenger plane show a badly damaged interior. It is unclear whether the plane had been full with passengers when it came down. Authorities are investigating. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp us on 07. A male stripper smashed a love rival's eye socket as they brawled over a woman on Valentine's Day. Jovan Rumble, who has starred in full Monty-style shows with the Dream Boys, pummeled Jared Johnson's face at London's St Pancras station. The muscle-clad dancer was returning from a romantic break in Paris with his girlfriend when he was confronted by her ex-partner Mr. Johnson on February 14. Rumble punched the victim so hard he fractured his skull. He admitted one count of causing GBH without intent at Westminster Magistrates Court on Thursday, but was spared jail after claiming he was unaware of his own strength. The girlfriend was not named in court. Prosecutor Rose Edwin said, Mr. Rumble and his girlfriend had been for a weekend in Paris. But Mr. Johnson said he had gone down to the station to meet his girlfriend on Valentine's Day. She had told him she was in Paris with friends. He approached his girlfriend when he saw her. Quickly the woman started pulling Rumble away, saying to Johnson, "Just go, just leave." Mr. Johnson approached the couple again and pushed Mr. Rumble. Rumble punched him once on the head and he fell down, where he then punched Johnson 2 more times. Mr. Johnson was adamant that he was still in a long-term relationship and that they had been going through hard times but were working things out. No mamas, defending, said, Mr. Reuven is a professional dancer and was unaware of his own strength. It was quite a shock for him to be approached by someone claiming he was with his partner. Rumble, 29, was given a 26-week sentence, suspended for a year, and ordered to do 100 hours of unpaid work. The stripper, from Birmingham, has previously worked for award-winning dance troupe UK Pleasure Boys and delights his Instagram fans with scantily clad pics. He has revealed that The Sun Online has beaten Mail Online for the third month in a row to secure top spot in industry Bible Comscore's digital rankings. With nearly 30 million unique visitors in June, The Sun was again the UK's biggest digital commercial news site. The Sun recorded 29.7 meters visitors, compared with Mail Online and Metro's combined 28.3 meters. The Evening Standard and The Independent had 24.4 meters, with The Guardian lagging behind on 23.3 meters. It marks an incredible rise for The Sun's website, with an increase from 18 meters monthly hits just 2 years ago. June also saw the launch of The Edit, a daily dose of the biggest showbiz, news and gossip delivered straight to the new Sun mobile app, downloadable from the App Store and on Android. Meanwhile, The Sun's world-exclusive interview with President Donald Trump last Friday saw our website record a huge number of hits, with more than 1 million logging on to read the interview within 24 hours. The interview was featured on the front page of the New York Times and covered right across the world, with political editor Tom Newton Dunn interviewed by global TV networks. Sales figures for June, also released this week, saw The Sun retain its lead. More teenagers should take summer jobs, Work and Pensions Secretary Esther McVey says. She believes they are vital for preparing kids for the workplace and teaching them essential skills. But she warned there had been a drastic fall in 16 to 17-year-olds in employment over the holidays in the past 10 years. The number with part-time jobs has more than halved from 42% to 18%. Ms. McVey is now launching a drive to get young people into work by placing 20,000 vacancies on the government's Find a Job website. Writing in the Daily Telegraph, she said a cultural shift had led to teenagers shunning the chance to earn extra money and experience because of an increased focus on education. She argued holiday jobs allowed them to develop soft skills, such as customer service and problem solving. She said, "Everyone has to start somewhere and these first job experiences can have the most impact. It won't necessarily be your ideal one, but it's a step towards finding out what you actually want to do. Summer jobs are a great way to put you on the path to develop these skills, sample a potential career, and help set you up for whatever comes next. Have a go because you don't know where it will lead. I certainly didn't." Statistics show teenagers who earn as they learn are more likely to get a job when they have completed education and can earn up to 15% more. This is the dramatic moment a giant boulder struck a small Volkswagen with 4 people inside after it rolled off a cliff. Luckily all 4 people in the car, which was on the winding mountain road in Fangtu, a village in Lushan County in southwestern China's Sichuan province, survived the accident and managed to climb out of the mangled metal wreckage. The video shows the silver VW stopping dead in its tracks after the huge boulder tumbles off the cliff and lands right on its roof, while images showed the state of the totaled car. The dashcam owner driving behind the victims helped call the police after the incident, with local police and the fire service arriving to seal off the dangerous road section and treat the victims. All 4 people from the car were taken to the Lushan County People's Hospital for treatment. They were not in any life-threatening condition, police said, but had suffered differing degrees of injuries. The car though was badly damaged, with the roof, windscreen and back window all smashed in. The boulder, which shattered on impact and left debris scattered along the road, was brought down by recent poor weather including heavy rains, reports said. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp us on 07810-790. The 12 boys and their football coach rescued from a flooded cave in Thailand will watch a recording of the World Cup final today, not the live broadcast. The footy team, named the Wild Boars, from Chiang Rai, northern Thailand, have also missed out on attending the match due to medical reasons. An official at Chiang Rai Prakanakro Hospital said, "Given that the final will be broadcast quite late our time, and we want the boys to rest and not to be looking at screens too much, we will probably record the final and show it to them later." France play Croatia in the World Cup final in Moscow today, at 10 p.m. in Thailand. The World Football governing body FIFA had invited the boys, one of whom was stuck in the cave wearing an England shirt, and their coach to attend the final in Moscow, but they could not go for medical reasons. The 12-member Wild Boars football team and their coach spent more than 2 weeks trapped inside the flooded cave. They have been recovering in hospital since they were rescued over 3 days last week and will discharged on Thursday. The boys, aged 11 to 16, and their 25-year-old coach had planned to explore the Tham Luang Cave complex for about an hour after football practice on June 23. But a rainy season downpour flooded the tunnels, trapping them. British divers John Valanthan and Rick Stanton found them on July 2, squatting on a mound in a flooded chamber several kilometers inside the complex. Rescuers then had to work out how to get them out through the flooded tunnels. All 13 were brought to safety in a perilous rescue organized by Thai Navy SEALs and an international team of cave diving experts. The rescue was greeted with joy by some of the world's biggest soccer clubs. Last week, Manchester United invited the Wild Boars to watch a match at their Old Trafford ground. Authorities have closed the cave for now but hope to reopen it later as a tourist attraction, with sufficient safeguards in place to make sure no one gets trapped again. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp. IT is the second most deadly parasitic disease. Only malaria is more lethal. And schistosomiasis, also known as snail fever, could be set to invade Europe's shores. Around 25–30% of humans are currently infected with at least one parasitic worm species, writes Carl Hoffman, professor of parasitology at Aberystwyth University, for The Conversation. The disease's cause can be devastating. Worm infections can lead to diverse and chronic conditions such as scarring of the eyes and blindness, swelling of extremities and immobility, blockage of digestion and malnutrition, anemia and tiredness. They can also increase an individual's risk of developing cancer and AIDS. Schistosomiasis currently affects hundreds of millions of people each year, causing thousands of deaths. Caused by schistosome flatworms, the infection occurs when people come into contact with a type of freshwater snail that produces the worms. These worms then penetrate the skin and live in the blood vessels surrounding the intestines or bladder of the individual. When the eggs of these flatworms become trapped in human organs, they can cause inflammation, blindness, scarring, anemia and ultimately, death. Any eggs that make it into the digestive system will be released when the carrier defecates or urinates. If these then reach fresh water, they can hatch and the cycle begins again. While schistosomiasis was previously linked to impoverished parts of South America, Sub-Saharan Africa, where water hygiene is limited, recent outbreaks were reported on the Mediterranean. In 2014, 6 people were infected after swimming in the Calvu River, in Corsica. And, according to Professor Hoffman, Global travel and climate change could mean we see parasitic worms continuing to move into parts of Europe and North America. The long-term consequences of increased parasitic worm distributions are difficult to predict, but the harm that infection causes highlights the need for developing control strategies that can mitigate this 21st-century threat to global health. Hoffman and his team are looking into ways to treat and prevent the spread of parasitic diseases. Girl Guides are axing traditional badges for vlogging, juicing and meditation. Generations have historically earned patches operating radios and learning to hostess. But Girl Guiding is now launching the biggest shake-up in the charity's history and replacing them with 72 new ones. They are designed to prepare kids for the modern world. Badges for girls aged 10 to 14 include vlogging for websites, drinks mixology, human rights and personal branding. Brownies 7 to 10-year-olds will be tasked with archaeology, aviation and mindfulness. And Rangers, 14 to 18-year-olds, could study for badges in women's rights, festival going and entrepreneurial skills. Traditional activities such as hostess are being ditched. But some old-school elements like event planning will remain in some form. More than 50,000 members were involved in testing new activities over 18 months. They will be fully rolled out by September 2019. Volunteer Jess Bond, who helped develop the program, said, "We want girls to feel equipped." Theresa May sparked uproar yesterday after her bombshell post-Brexit plans promised visa-free travel for talented EU workers. The PM insisted Brussels' hated free movement rules would come to an end. But details buried in the document revealed the UK would allow tourists, students and business staff to come visa-free on a temporary basis. Sources admitted this could range from 6 months to as long as 3 years. Tory MPs claimed the document also paved the way for migrants to continue to claim generous and work benefits. Challenged in the Commons, new Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab was unable to say what system would be in place for nurses or other skilled and low-skilled workers. Migration Watch Chair Lord Green stormed, "This immigration chapter is in many respects close to what we suggested, but there are some weasel words. It's vital that the UK should not be drawn into a negotiation over numbers. Indeed, it is not enough to control the number of migrant workers from the EU. These numbers must be significantly reduced." Tory Eurosceptic Ian Duncan Smith demanded to know why the government had dropped any mention of work permits, let alone visas. He told The Sun, "My fear is that the detail on immigration is being held back so we can negotiate controls away in a SOP to the European Union. That would be an unmitigated disaster." Key elements of Mrs May's proposals include, The Sun 5 years ago urged then PM David Cameron to win back powers to halt unlimited EU immigration, warning voters could otherwise vote to cut ties with Brussels. Figures 2 months ago revealed net migration in the year to September. Jacob Rees-Mogg has blasted Theresa May's Brexit plan and labelled her a Remainer who has remained a Remainer. The Tory backbencher delivered a stinging rebuke of her proposals for trade talks with the EU, saying her strategy was a hopeless way to negotiate. He suggested that her heart wasn't really in it to get Britain a good deal, and criticized her for suggesting Brexiteers like him voted with their heart and not their head. Mrs May had told the BBC, "Many people voted from the heart to leave the European Union. My job as Prime Minister is to deliver for them." Speaking on the Andrew Marr show, she added, "But also I have got to be hard-headed and practical about this and do it in a way that ensures we get the best interests for the UK." Mr Rees-Mogg said, "The government unfortunately believes that Brexit is not a good thing in itself. It seems to think it has to be tempered with non-Brexit." He told the BBC's Sunday Politics, And that was when the Prime Minister said people voted with their hearts, and she was doing something with her head. In my view of most Brexiteers' head and heart come together. Brexit is enormously positive, a huge opportunity for the country, and I'm afraid the Prime Minister doesn't see that. And it's why I think she is a Remainer who has remained a Remainer. The MP, the head of the powerful group of Eurosceptic Conservatives, made his comments as the former Brexit Secretary David Davis attacked the government's white paper. The ex-cabinet minister, who stood down last Sunday over the soft Brexit Chequers agreement, said the plan jeopardizes the opportunities offered by leaving. Writing in the FT, he said, "The chance to become a credible trading partner will be compromised and we will be unable to strike free trade deals." Referencing the U.S. President's comments to The Sun, Mr. Davis added, as Donald Trump aptly pointed out, it would kill the prospect of a US-UK deal. And he added, if the government follows its present course, it will stifle innovation and stymie economic growth. But hitting back, the new Brexit minister Robin Walker said Eurosceptics like Mr. Rees-Mogg should get behind the Prime Minister and support her white paper. And the Foreign Office Minister Sir Alan Duncan said, Jacob Rees-Mogg is not helping us stick together and we need to stick together. He added, anyone who thinks they can criticize her, challenge her, must realize Theresa May must connect with new voters and get them to vote Tory or she must quit, George Osborne has said. The former Chancellor turned newspaper editor said the Prime Minister must reach out beyond the party's core voters to make a difference or the Tories will be screwed. In an interview with GQ he said, if the Conservative Party does not try to reconnect with modern Britain, with urban, ethnically diverse, sexually diverse Britain, it is politically screwed. The current leadership needs to find a way to reconnect or we will need new leadership. Mr. Osborne, who was sacked by Mrs. May after she took charge following the referendum, and now edits the Evening Standard, said the party must be more diverse. He has been a vocal critic of the PM since she booted him, regularly laying into her in his newspaper leader column, and once was reported to have told friends he won't rest until she's chopped up in bags in my freezer. The Remainer also said in the interview that Brexiteers couldn't make a decision on how to continue with our EU exit, and that Britain is now in a permanent transition. While we legally leave in March of next year, we're not actually leaving any of the arrangements, he said. The irony is that the only thing we will leave next year is the room where the decisions are taken. And he also dismissed demands for the government to get on with Brexit so we can talk about other things. His comments come despite the news that Mrs. May's Chequers deal is not going down well with her voters, or members. Several polls have shown that Brits don't like her plans for a soft Brexit, and many MPs are calling on her to change tack quickly before they lost even more support. The EU's Michel Barnier also officially rejected her plan last week. Theresa May was last night urged to draw up emergency plans to fix Britain's roads, after 4,000 pothole-related breakdowns in 3 months. The RAC said it had been stunned by the scale of vehicle damage reported by members between April and June. It warned the pothole epidemic could soon claim lives given the risks not only to cars but cyclists and motorcyclists. And it urged government to ring-fence part of the £30 billion generated from fuel duty to invest into the local road network. The RAC said there were a total of 4,091 call-outs for damaged shock absorbers, broken suspension rings or distorted wheels in the second quarter of the year, an average of 44 a day. It's the highest figure for the quarter for 3 years. RAC Chief Engineer David Bsley said, From a driver's point of view, this can only mean that our roads are still in a poor state of repair after the damage caused by the beast from the east and the generally harsh late winter conditions the country experienced. Councils have been working hard to fix potholes and general road surface degradation, but despite further emergency funding from central government, their budgets are even more stretched than in previous years. He added, "Our figures demonstrate they are not winning the battle, and as a result the safety of too many drivers, cyclists and motorcyclists is being put at risk. The overall quality of our roads should be getting better, not worse." The figures come just a week after Oxfordshire County Council was accused of asking local residents to volunteer to fix potholes. It was encouraging parish and town councils to fund and take responsibility for patching up the roads. The Sun 2 years ago revealed Devon County Council was urging community road wardens to mend its potholes. The AA accused it of using the 18th-century corvée system pioneered by Louis XIV in France, where unpaid peasants were forced to repair public roads. The local government association claims it could take 14 years to mend all the potholes on Britain's roads. Martin Tett, the LGA Transport spokesman, said, "Councils are fixing a pothole every 21 seconds. However, only long-term, consistent and fairer government investment in local road maintenance can allow councils to embark on the widespread improvement of our roads that is desperately needed." A Department for Transport spokeswoman said, "We have listened to the concerns of road users and are already providing councils in England with over £6 billion to help improve the condition of our local highways." This funding Thomas Markle is making an extraordinary public plea for his daughter to contact him because he fears he may not have long to live. Thomas, 74 next month, believes he has been shunned for almost 2 months for staging paparazzi snaps and speaking publicly about Meghan. He told The Sun on Sunday, "I had a heart attack, doesn't anybody care? I could actually die soon. Does she want this to be the last thing we've said to each other?" He went on, "It is probably the longest time I have gone without speaking to her ever. I just want to clear the air and tell her how proud I am of her. If I had one message for her, it would be that I'm sorry for anything that went wrong. I'd like to put our differences behind us and get together. I miss you very much." Speaking as he opened up his family album, Thomas said he has been unable to reach Meghan, 36, over the phone from his seaside home in Mexico, while a staff member at Kensington Palace will not answer his texts. The retired TV lighting expert was exposed for setting up the pictures 6 days before she and Prince Harry, 33, tied the knot in Windsor in May. They forgave him for the stunt and phoned him the day after the wedding while he was recovering from heart surgery. But he has not heard from the newlyweds since. The silence has coincided with an interview he gave about them to Good Morning Britain on June 18. He said, "I spoke to Meghan and Harry briefly after the wedding. It was mostly me and Meghan. They were talking about coming to visit me. I spoke to them both and wished them a happy honeymoon. That was the last call. The phone number I had been calling Meghan on is no longer picking up. And I don't have an address for her. I can send something to the palace, but there is no guarantee it would get to her. I sent a text to my palace contact saying I would like to reach my daughter and got no reply." The strong-willed American added, "Being shunned for the rest of my life? That's not going to happen." Thomas shared treasured family photographs as well as messages Meghan had written to him, including a birthday card from 4 years ago. Smiling as he recalled her birth, the dad of 3 said, "She was put in my arms first. It was love at first sight. She was the most beautiful child I had ever seen. With my first 2 kids I wasn't a rich man. With my 3rd child, to a different wife, I had lots of money. I was very comfortable. I would go home hoping Megan would be awake, so I could walk her. I would walk her in the kitchen and listen to the refrigerator hum. It put her to sleep. When I first held her as a baby, I feel madly in love with her. I carried her for 3 years. I don't think her feet ever touched the ground. I love her very much. Thomas gave Megan her first nickname Bean after reading Jack and the Beanstalk to her. And he recalled taking her out for walks around her childhood home in Woodland Hills, California. He said, "We would look up at the moon. I would point to it and say, 'This is Maggie's moon.' For 2 years I did this, to the point that after a while she would say, 'Maggie's moon.' We were very close that way." Their bond survived Thomas and Megan's mum Doria divorcing when the future actress was 6. Megan lived full-time with him in Hollywood from the age of 11 until she graduated high school. The pair would go on road trips, including one to Elvis's Graceland home in Memphis, Tennessee. Thomas said, "The road trips were fun to do. I rigged my Toyota 4Runner with mattresses in the back for her and a TV and VCR. We discovered she liked the music I did when I was a kid. Bands like the Cheryls, all the soul groups, she liked everyone. Every time we would stop at a truck stop for something to eat, they would have the cassettes. Megan would spend hours on the sets of TV shows he worked on, including long-running U.S. soap General Hospital." Thomas, a respected director of photography, said, "I knew she was going into show business when she was born. I'm not kidding, I just knew. She grew up and then became a little star. Real easy. Growing up on film sets was a great experience for her. It also made her a bit of a star because she could bring all her little friends along with her when she came to the studio." After Megan graduated from Northwestern University in Chicago in 2003, she began to pick up acting work and would ring every week for advice. He believes her love of showbiz doomed her first marriage to TV producer Trevor Engelson. They wed on a Jamaican beach in 2011 but divorced 2 years later after Megan had moved to Toronto, Canada, to film legal drama Suits. Thomas said, "Trevor had called me a few times. I explained that I knew her love was being an actor, probably even more so than anything else. You marry the business, I keep telling people that. I married the business. Megan married the business. That ruins a lot of your relationships. I think what she did was dedicate herself to her show." Megan and Harry began dating in 2016. Thomas remembered, she said, "Daddy, I've met this new guy and I really like him." The next day it was, "Daddy, he's an Englishman." Then on the 3rd or 4th phone call, she said, "Daddy, he's a prince." Thomas said he has chatted to Harry around half a dozen times on the phone, but has never met him in the flesh. He said, "I don't care whether she's group of asterisks off at me, I want to see her. I just want to have a father-daughter relationship. I took care of my mother the last 5 years of her life. My daughter said to me she would take care of me in my declining years. I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about taking care of me. That's important to me." In a message for his son-in-law about the issues that seem to have caused a rift between them, he said, "Get over it. Just get over it. I am her father. And the bottom line with that is I deserve some respect." However, a union boss was left bloodied after speaking at a counter-protest to a rally in support of jailed far-right leader Tommy Robinson. Steve Headley, Senior Assistant General Secretary of the RMT, was assaulted by supporters of Robinson, according to anti-fascism campaigners Hope Not Hate, but the perpetrators could not be immediately verified independently. Witnesses said a mob ambushed two men at the Westminster Arms pub in central London on Sunday afternoon in a targeted attack. The attackers, knew what they were doing, one witness, who asked not to be named, said. Smashed glass was strewn across the pavement outside the establishment on Storey's Gate, and pictures showed Mr. Headley with a bandaged head and bloodied face. Scotland Yard feared violence ahead of the rally in support of 35-year-old Robinson, who was jailed for 13 months for contempt of court after filming people involved in a criminal trial and broadcasting the footage on social media. The Metropolitan Police could not immediately comment on Mr. Headley's attack. The force said a total of 12 people have been arrested as part of the demonstrations. At the demonstrations earlier today, one man was seen clutching a bat, and police were seen holding others back from the scuffles earlier today. Photographs of the disturbances came as thousands joined a march in support of the jailed activist today in central London. Demonstrators chanted his name and "We want Tommy out" as others delivered speeches demanding he be freed. But anti-fascist protesters were quick to confront them, many of them armed with sticks and wearing balaclavas. Onlookers on the scene said the scuffles were quickly brought back under control by police, who had a heavy presence for today's demos. Reports suggested that up to 3,000 Tommy supporters came out on Whitehall today. Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, though he also uses other aliases, is a founder of the English Defence League, which has organised violent demonstrations against Islamic immigrants in the UK in the past decade. More recently, Robinson has branded himself a journalist and campaigner against Islamic extremism, a move that won him contacts with American anti-Muslim activists. Some of the pro-Tommy supporters today had joined with a small procession of Donald Trump backers, who had marched from the U.S. Embassy in Battersea to show their appreciation for the U.S. president. Police had already been forced to put restrictions in both demonstrations amid fears of violence. A separate demo last month saw protesters clash with police then too. Meanwhile, one of Donald Trump's ambassadors has called on the UK to treat jailed Tommy sympathetically. It is alleged that Sam Brownback, the United States ambassador for international religious freedom, complained to the British ambassador in Washington, D.C. in a June meeting with Sir Kim Darroch, Britain's ambassador to the U.S. The claims were made by a British official and two sources close to the organisers of the pro-Robinson demonstration that took place today. We pay for your stories. Mourners paid tribute to the petrolhead boyfriend of tragic Love Island star Sophie Graydon with a supercar meet ahead of his funeral. Heartbroken pals rolled out Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and a Rolls-Royce Phantom to celebrate Aaron Armstrong's love of adrenaline. The 25-year-old was tragically found dead on July 10, just weeks after he discovered 32-year-old Sophie's body at her home in Newcastle on June 22. Hundreds gathered by Blyth Beach, Northumbria, last night to share memories of Aaron, whose funeral is being held today at Calpen Crematorium. The event was organised by Ryan Gallagher, who had been close friends with Aaron for a decade after meeting him in a gym. The devastated 27-year-old said, "I just wanted to get everyone here together to share their memories." He would be over the moon with the turnout. Aaron was straight down the line, always happy and up for a good time. He loved anything to do with adrenaline. It all still feels surreal. I think it will take a while for any of it to sink in. We were such close friends. Dozens of supercars honored Aaron at the meet, which ended with a firework display. Childhood friend Luke McDonough said, "Aaron was always up for a laugh and always there for his friends no matter what. He was a bit like a brother to me through my whole life. It will always be raw with me for the rest of my life. I've been through so much with him, Everything crazy I've done in my life has been because of him. He has given me some of my best memories. Tributes have flooded in for Aaron since his death on July 10 at his parents' home in Blyth. He had posted an emotional message to Sophie, who starred on Love Island in 2016, shortly before the tragic discovery was made. Aaron wrote, "I miss you so much, man. Sophie. Not a minute goes by without your gorgeous smile being a picture in my mind. Every day we spent together was so amazing. I need them days back. I love you, princess." Britain's summer scorcher will kick up a gear after today's downpours, with a stifling 30°C weekend to be followed by the hottest day of the year next week. A weather front rolling through the northwest and intense thunderstorms in the southeast gave many a soaking after weeks of dry weather turned green Britain into a parched island. The intense deluge was expected to bring as much as 30 millimeters of rain in an hour, the entire monthly average for this time of year. A Met Office yellow weather warning spelled travel chaos for millions hitting the roads to start their summer trips on what was dubbed Frantic Friday. Forecasters told motorists to beware of flash floods, lightning strikes and road closures during the heavy rainfall on Friday. But the skies are set to clear this weekend, bringing long periods of sunshine and kicking up the thermometer into the mid to high 20s or even 30°C in the south. And next week will be even hotter, just as families set out for their holidays at the beginning of the school summer break. This year's record temperature of 32.6°C recorded in Portmadog, Wales last month is predicted to tumble. The south of England is expected to see temperatures hit 33°C by the middle of next week as the record-breaking heatwave, the longest spell of hot weather in 42 years, looks set to last. Showers will still affect mainly parts of the northwest, meteorologists say, but these will be sparse and many will enjoy long periods of sweltering sunshine. Met Office forecaster Luke Meal told The Sun Online, "With the school holidays beginning next week, the weather will not be too bad for many. There will be a bit of a northwest/southeast split to start off with. The northwest will be cloudier with more chance of rain, but warm and also enjoying spells of sunshine. In the southeast it will be very hot and sunny. It could reach a peak of 33°C, potentially bringing the hottest day of the year by the middle of the week. The searing heat will follow today's heavy rainfall as millions brace for a battering from intense downpours and thunderstorms." Met Office meteorologist Aidan McGivern said, "The hottest air will be in the southeast, with the heat and humidity combining to set off thunderstorms for Friday evening rush hour. Tricky driving conditions, spray on roads, flash flooding, 30 millimeters (1.2 in) of rainfall in the space of an hour for some, but hit and miss thunder." Britain's longest heatwave for 42 years will come to an end, after one final scorcher. Temperatures are expected to peak at 88 F (31°C) on Monday before dipping to 77 F (25°C) on Tuesday. The Met Office said showers would accompany the cooler conditions with more unsettled weather to come. It peaked at 87.2 F (30.7°C) yesterday as the nation bathed in blue skies and glorious sunshine on St. Swithin's Day. The legendary weather folklore declares, "St. Swithin's Day if thou be fair, for 40 days 'twill rain no more." But forecasters poured cold water on the prediction. The Met Office's Mark Wilson said, "If it was as easy as relying on St. Swithin, this job would be a dream. Sadly, we're not going to see 40 days without rain. In fact, we will only last a day before the heavens open." After the sunshine of Sunday and one final hurrah Monday, we're going to see cooler temperatures and some heavy rain arrive. Temperatures will be back down to where they should be for this time of year, which means the heat wave is at an end. The heat wave, which began on June 24, saw 16 consecutive days where temperatures were over 82 F (28°C). It also saw the hottest day of the year so far with 91.4 F 33C set at Porthmadog in Wales on June 28. The arrival of a typical British summer, sunshine and showers, will be a welcome relief to the nation's water firms. Reservoirs ran dry and water firms called for homeowners to avoid baths and only have 4-minute showers. The heat wave that has gripped the nation for the last few weeks is set to come to a close this week. Brits will see the last of the blistering temperatures this weekend, with highs of 31°C today and 32°C tomorrow, before temperatures fall back down around 10 degrees. Heavy rain and thunderstorms will sweep in from Tuesday as the mercury returns closer to average summer temperatures. But despite the fall in heat, it will still be sunny and warm in many spots next week, with the odd downpour and storm. Many Brits who struggle to cope with the usually high temperatures that set in last month will be relieved to know it will be altogether more pleasant. But sunseekers thrilled with the scorching heat wave will have to cross their fingers another burst of sizzling temperatures will come back and before the summer is over. A Met Office spokesman said, "Much of England and Wales is going to see a hot one to come today. In the southeast today we could see 31°C as a high temperature, but there will be cloud and rain for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Tomorrow temperatures could be even higher, there's a chance of 31°C. But there will be come and rain for much of Scotland and Northern Ireland again. On Monday there could be a few heavy showers, but again we could see some high temperature still. Eventually it will be fresher weather that wins out, by the time we get on to Tuesday. Less hot, is the best way to describe next week, but it will still be warm. There will be some sunny spells, but there will be a few showers around that could be heavy and thundery." He confirmed that the heat wave is expected to end from Tuesday, adding, "That's when the temperature will go back. It will be still sunny, above average, but there's nothing suggesting temperatures will go back to what we had the last couple of weeks." However, he added the summer is only halfway through, so we could well see another heat wave in the next few months. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. A university student hanged himself and set up his computer to play a dark rap song when his body was found, an inquest heard. Callum Webb used voice activation equipment to keep his PC playing Beamer Boy by Lil Peep. A porter found his body in his room in March, the inquest into the 19-year-old's death heard. The song, described as dark by the coroner, features the lyrics "I don't know what the F*** going on, I feel like a no one, that's what they told me, I'm never coming home now, all alone now." The Japanese and computer science student at Oxford Brookes University had stayed while other students had made their way home for the Easter break. A statement from Detective Constable Darren Little, of Thames Valley Police, was read out at Oxford Coroner's Court. It said, "I believe that when the man spoke this activated a YouTube video to start playing on the computer. The computer played Lil Peep, Beamer Boy. I cannot be certain, but it is my opinion that Callum wished this song to be played to those who found him." The court heard that Callum had visited his doctor on a number of occasions dating back to October 2012 when he reported hearing voices in his head, but his latest visit to his GP a few months earlier was for travel advice and vaccinations. The inquest also heard he had been making plans to return home to Whaley Bridge, Derbyshire, for the Easter holidays when most of his flatmates already had left, but had last used his key fob to open his bedroom door at 6:14 a.m. on March 24, and a post-mortem examination showed when he was found he had been there for more than 24 hours. Oxfordshire coroner Darren Salter, recording a suicide verdict, said, "The evidence in this case appears to point to Callum taking his own life. There was no note indicating his intentions, although I remain of the view that the song being triggered." American Special Forces have wiped out a major ISIS stronghold in Afghanistan, killing 167 militants with no friendly casualties, it emerged today. After its caliphate in Syria and Iraq collapsed, the death cult has been trying instead to colonize the mountainous country. But that ambition received a major setback after U.S. warplanes pummeled the group's main base in Nangarhar in the east of the country. Elite U.S. and Afghan troops then stormed the area. After several days of heavy fighting, 167 of the death cult's troops died and large quantities of its equipment were captured. Yet no Americans died despite the severity of the fighting. The battle unfolded next to Aiken District, where the U.S. Air Force dropped its largest non-nuclear device dubbed the Mother of All Bombs last year. Revealing details of the battle last month, Lieutenant Colonel Josh Thiel, from the U.S. 1st Special Forces Group, said, "This was one of the main green zones that did two things. 1. It provided money, finance, logistics to ISIS, and we've taken that away from them. Additionally, ISIS was using this as a site to prepare and move high-profile attacks on Kabul and Jalalabad." The operation involved 3 companies of Afghan commandos supported by U.S. airstrikes and American Special Forces teams. The battle began with troops arriving by helicopter and setting up an operations base near the village of Garjari, where ISIS fighters were holed up. Soldiers found booby traps and the bodies of 2 beheaded women as they cleared the area, officials said. As revealed by Sun Online, many British jihadists driven out of the Middle East are thought to have made their way to Afghanistan. In May this year it emerged that the UK plans to double the number of troops fighting the terror group in Afghanistan to more than 900. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp us on 07810. Giant bird-eating tarantulas the size of dinner plates could be on the loose after their babies were found abandoned in a car park. The Brazilian spiders are one of the largest species of tarantulas in the world, with adults having a leg span of up to 10 inches, and have fangs that inject poisonous venom into their victims. The collection of baby arachnids were found on Thursday after a car knocked over some pots at the side of a car park at Bateman's Yard Livery Stables in Somercotes, Derbyshire. The RSPCA believe 2 adult tarantulas may have escaped as they were not in the 2 larger pots found with the 3 babies. The animal charity are warning people not to approach or try to handle them as the spiders are thought to be salmon pink bird-eating tarantulas. RSPCA Inspector Christy Ludlam, who attended the scene, said, "The woman caller who contacted us was understandably shaken when she realized the pots contained spiders as she is terrified of them. It appears someone ran over 2 of the pots and the driver told the woman who called us he thought he saw 2 larger spiders. No bodies were found, so it is assumed they may have escaped. We collected all the pots and took them to a specialist who found 3 baby arachnids in them which he believes are bird-eating spiders. In fact, when he opened one pot a spider ran up his arm. The abandoned spiders would have died in the pots had they not been found. He is keeping all the pots warm and secure as there is a possibility more eggs may hatch. We are concerned that someone would abandon spiders like this. Tarantulas live in a warm and humid environment in the wild and need the same provided in captivity to meet their needs and keep them healthy. The releasing of the spiderers into the wild is illegal under the Wildlife and Countryside Act 1981 as they are a non-native species. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207. A heartbroken wife was left devastated when she found out her cheating husband was moving his mistress into their marital home. Tracy Arthur, 54, was then forced to live under the same roof as her hubby and his lover. While her husband, Andrew Arthur, cooked for and canoodled with the other woman, Tracy confined herself to her bedroom. She even had to blast Ed Sheeran to drown out the sound of their loud lovemaking. She said, "I had music on the whole time, always Ed Sheeran, because I was so desperate not to hear them together in the next room. I had to stay in my bedroom because they took over the house. I would get home from work and go straight to bed." Tracy says she lived on takeaway sandwiches that she ate in bed so that she could avoid the couple. The Arthurs, who had been married for 15 years, started to see cracks emerge in their relationship when Tracy suspected her husband might be having an affair. Last October, she noticed that her husband, Andrew, came home with what looked like a love bite on his neck. He claimed it was from play fighting with his friends, but Tracy soon found incriminating messages on her husband's iPad that proved he was cheating. Andrew then accused Tracy of having an affair herself and asked her to leave their home, owned by his parents, so that he could move his new lady in. Tracy said, "I had already lost my marriage and now I was going to lose my home. I couldn't believe it." To keep a roof over her head, Tracy obtained an emergency occupation order at Worcester Family Court in January. This allowed her to remain in the Redditch house until April. After months of the unconventional living arrangement, Tracy was eventually able to move into a two-bedroom flat on April 7. She is currently undergoing counseling, taking antidepressant medication, and waiting for her divorce to be finalized. Husband, Andrew, called the events 90% not true. He admits that he invited his mistress to move into the house while Tracy was still living there but said, "We weren't actually even living as husband and wife, you know." We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp us on 07810. A distraught wife has told of the moment she found sick videos on her husband's phone showing kids as young as 5 using the toilet at a KFC restaurant. Molly Clark, 21, from Coleraine, Northern Ireland, has warned her ex-partner Richard Cooper, 26, is a danger to the public. She says she initially thought her fast food worker husband was having an affair when she checked his mobile phone for evidence. But instead of racy texts to a mistress, Molly was shocked to find depraved videos of people using the toilet in the KFC branch where he worked. Cooper had fixed his phone camera to a bin to spy on customers, some as young as 5 years old, using the bathroom. Molly, who works for a pest control firm, also found that her husband had filmed her at their home as well. Once she made the sickening discovery, which she calls the worst moment of my life, the 21-year-old went straight to the police. Cooper did not serve any jail time despite being convicted of 4 counts of voyeurism. After pleading guilty at Antrim Crown Court, he was handed 2 years probation. Molly told the Mirror how she thought her perv husband might be having an affair when he kept constantly checking his phone. She said, "One day, I picked his phone up. Nothing could prepare me for what I saw. To my horror, it showed a little girl in what looked like public loos. The poor, Unsuspecting girl had been violated in the most disgusting of ways, and by my husband. During the court case, it also emerged that Cooper had strapped his phone to a washing basket and filmed his wife using the toilet. The revelation left Molly feeling disgusted and physically sick. She is now in a new trusting relationship after being betrayed and violated by Cooper. Speaking of her failed marriage, cancer survivor Molly said, "I realize now the man I thought I was married to didn't exist. I didn't know him." She added, "I feel like he's got away with it, to be honest. He walked free. The sentence in my eyes was far too lenient. He had disgusting videos of a child on his phone. That worries me. He's evil, there is no other word to describe him, and in my eyes he should have been jailed. We'd been together about 3 years when I moved in with him when I was 17. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 020. A 21-year-old woman lost an eye and needed her skull rebuilt after a gang of 5 battered her with an iron bar in a love rival attack. Holly Weston Taylor, 21, was left with horrific injuries revealed by a shocking MRI scan after being attacked with a metal bar in Haverfordwest, Pembrokeshire. The graphic photos show how Holly's left eye socket was completely broken and shattered in the attack. Doctors are now building a model of her head in a bid to help to reconstruct her face. Police have arrested 5 people in connection with the incident. Brave Holly said, "I've been blinded and had my face caved in all because of one silly little jealous girl." Holly said her attackers wanted to up my face because I found happiness where she couldn't. She said, "I refuse to let this define who I am. I am going to keep my head high and I am going to walk out of this a stronger person. This wasn't just an assault. They hit me to the ground with a bar and continued to hit my face until my eye burst and my cheek and eye socket were completely shattered. I've had my eye removed and I am still waiting for them to reconstruct my face. I am not looking for sympathy, I'm just looking to make sure these 4 monsters get what they deserve." Holly said she is being supported by boyfriend Sam Hughes after the brutal attack. A police spokeswoman said, "DFED Powys police attended West Court, Haverfordwest, at around 8:40 p.m. on July 3 to reports of an assault. A woman was taken to hospital and has suffered life-altering injuries as a result of the incident. 5 people were arrested and inquiries are ongoing in relation to them. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp us on 07810. An ancient man and woman have been found locked in a loving embrace for 3,000 years in a grave in Ukraine. The woman was willingly entombed alive in order to accompany her husband to the next world, archaeologists believe. The extraordinary burial sees the couple clasped together since the Bronze Age in eternal love. The pair, from the prehistoric Vysotskaya, or Wysoko, culture were found near Petrikhiv village, south of the city of Ternopil in western Ukraine. Professor Mykola Bandrivsky, who conducted a study of loving couple burials, said, "It is a unique burial, a man and a woman lying there, hugging each other tight. Both faces were gazing at each other, their foreheads were touching. The woman was lying on her back. With her right arm she was tenderly hugging the man, her wrist lying on his right shoulder. The legs of the woman were bent at the knees, lying on the top of the man's stretched legs. Both the dead humans were clad in bronze decorations, and near the heads was placed some pottery items, a bowl, a jar and 3 balers. This ancient culture was known for the tenderness of its burials, said Dr. Bandrivsky, director of the Transcarpathian branch of the Rescue Archaeological Service of the Institute of Archaeology of Ukraine. But this example is very striking. Autopsy experts say it would not be possible to place the woman's body in such a loving position if she was already dead. The experts say it is likely the woman chose to die and be buried with her love. They suggest she drank poison as she climbed into the grave and embraced her recently dead husband. In other cases, burials from this culture have revealed a man holding the hands of a woman, the lips of a man touching the forehead of a woman, or arms of both dead people hugging each other. Dr. Bandrowski, who has carried out an analysis of such burials, said, "From our point of view, this woman did it voluntarily. Maybe, the woman did not want to live with some other man, and get used to some new way of life. So she preferred to pass away with her husband. We suppose such a decision was dictated only by her own desire, and her attempt to stay with her beloved one." He said she may, for example, have drunk a chalice of poison to make joining her husband easy and painless. Marriage was well developed in the Vysotskaya culture, with husbands and wives having clearly defined responsibilities, he said. A major part of their beliefs was the idea that the woman preferred to die with her man. People in late Bronze Age believed in eternal life of the human soul. The renowned Ukrainian archaeologist said, "It is interesting that in other parts of Europe dead men and women in couple burials were laid next to each other. But in the Vysotskaya culture the couples in double graves were arranged in a way to demonstrate the tenderness and greatest sympathy towards each other." We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co.uk or call 0207 782 4368. You can WhatsApp us on 07810 A young mom who had sex with a 13-year-old boy has walked free from court after being told by the judge to stop inviting teenage lads around for parties. A court heard Jordan Lightfoot, 21, had sex with the virgin schoolboy on the kitchen floor at her home in Ariel, North Wales, in 2016. The youngster's stunned mum found text messages on his phone and contacted police about Lightfoot's behavior. She denied sexual activity with the boy and also pleaded not guilty to a separate charge of touching a 15-year-old boy and inciting him to engage in sexual activity. But she was convicted earlier this month and Judge David Hill imposed an 18-month jail sentence, suspended for 2 years, at Mold Crown Court. Joe Maxwell, prosecuting, said text messages between Lightfoot and the 13-year-old made it obvious she was in control of the relationship. Simon Killeen, defending, said the offenses happened in a short period of time when she was an immature teenager. Judge Hale, passing sentence, said it happened during a troubled period of her life when she was living on her own. He said, "You became involved with a group of lads, people who were prepared to befriend you, and you were prepared to befriend them. On these 2 occasions you engaged in a brief sexual relationship with both of them. There is a disparity of age. They were vulnerable because they were even less equipped than you to deal with the emotional relationships involved. I accept you were immature." He told her, "No teenage lads around for parties or anything like that." Lightfoot is now banned from contacting boys aged between 11 and 16 unless inadvertent or with consent of parents who know about her conviction. The mum of one was also ordered to carry out 50 days of rehabilitation activity and a 5-year sexual harm prevention order was made. She has a baby whose father is unconnected to the case and is now on a sex offenders register for 10 years. And Lidl has pledged to close its stores early on if England make it through to the World Cup final on Sunday. Why? Because little knows it's coming home. As football fever sweeps the nation, the German budget store has promised to open doors early at 9:30 a.m. and close at 3 p.m. so that staff get home in time for kickoff at 4 p.m. Aldi already made the same promise last night, but it's only if 3 Lions beat Croatia in Wednesday evening's semi-final match. England are only playing their 3rd World Cup semi-final ever and have the chance to reach the final for the 2nd time in the team's history. Sunday trading laws mean that the supermarkets will have to close at 4 p.m. normally, so they will only be closing an hour early. The discounter tweeted, "As the official supermarket of the England football team, let's make this announcement official. When our boys make it to the final this Sunday, it will be early doors across our English stores. Number 3 p.m. !! It's coming home." The country has been gripped by the World Cup so far this summer, with pubs packed elbow to elbow with cheering punters, while the nation's motorways have been empty. England fans hit the town on Saturday night after our football heroes reached our first semi-final in 28 years. Boozy revelers looked partied out by the end of the night, with some still draped in flags as they made their way home. A roaring 19 million 3 Lions fans tuned in to watch England's incredible World Cup win against Sweden, and that doesn't even include revelers in pubs. Nothing makes you cringe like a bad tattoo, and these are some real shockers. Scroll through these horrific pictures of tats that are surely being regretted as we speak. From crying nipples, to bad drawings, to awful placement, this gallery has it all. Someone in here decided to get a Kanye West tweet inked on their skin. A massive crack has appeared on a volcano near Yellowstone National Park, sparking fears that a volcano eruption could occur at any minute and wreak havoc on Western America. In this terrifying video, a huge, steam-spewing fissure is visible on a volcano in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, near Inspiration Point and Hidden Falls. Park officials have since closed off 2 areas of the park, citing concern for people's safety. The National Park Service said that it's possible the crack could have been caused by regular seismic activity, but they aren't sure of the exact causes and have launched an investigation. Superintendent David Vela said, "Human safety is our #1 priority, and with an abundance of caution we are temporarily closing this area until we can properly assess the situation." Rangers have not confirmed when the areas will reopen, but they are currently completing a risk assessment. Grand Teton National Park is around 7 miles away from Yellowstone National Park and the Yellowstone supervolcano. If both volcanoes were to erupt, it could cause a massive explosion capable of wiping out millions of people. Earlier this year, an abnormal river of lava was found underneath the Yellowstone supervolcano. Experts said if it were to erupt, the river could cause a mega eruption with the potential to wipe out Western America. Last year, a swarm of 1,400 mini-earthquakes took place at the national park, terrifying experts. The last time the supervolcano erupted, 630,000 years ago, there were devastating after-effects revealed by researchers at the University of California. A smaller eruption occurred 70,000 years ago. Many are speculating that we are due for the apocalyptic eruption to occur, but scientists have said it likely won't happen for another 1 to 2 million years. We pay for your stories. Do you have a story for the Sun Online News team? Email us at tips@the-sun.co. UK or call 0207 782 4368.